Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time, pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming back after the news, we're going to discuss an update to the Georgia Appeals Court as they stay most of the proceedings in the Trump election case. We'll also give you the details, the salacious details on the latest Hunter Biden trial. Woo, yesterday got a little spicy, a little hot under the collar. Drug use, affairs, all that, more on the Hunter Biden trial update. Later in the show, Nicole Hunt, spokesperson of Focus on the Family. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it's my fetching bride. I wrote an article for Newsweek arguing that Louisiana is right to want the 10 Commandments in classrooms across its state, and something that should be implemented across the country. Christine Yeargin is going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Recent study finds that nearly 96% of abortions are for birth control. Is it right for our culture to be doing that? These aren't health of the mother. These aren't babies with problems that couldn't survive. It's mostly just used as birth control. And then 9 o'clock hour, MAGA, ready to jail its opponents. Is this true? Axios reporting that the Trump, possibly future Trump administration, getting ready to engage in lawfare against its political opponents. We'll cover all of this and more on today's show. It's the 80th anniversary, Bill, of D-Day. Can you believe that?
It's crazy to think
80
about.
years.
Yeah, just the idea behind it and how they went forward with the invasion and asking those young men to make that sacrifice, and how they had to be deceptive and choose the location.
Right.
Because oddly enough, the Hitler didn't think they were going to come in Normandy. He thought it was a couple other places. So he had defenses, but he didn't think that was going to be the possibility, because there were other better locations. And that was some of the reason they chose Normandy, is because it was accessible, but because there were better locations. So it made sense that he wouldn't expect it here. But the idea, and
that Sun Tzu fight where your enemy is not type of thing.
Yeah, kind of the idea of figure out where they're weakest and take advantage of their weakness. And they did a lot of deception in order to make Hitler think that the attacks were coming in different directions. And it was fascinating to see. But most importantly, the thing that I keep thinking about is the soldiers that are standing there in those boats as they hit the beach. You know what's in front of you. Some of them can see it. That front drops and you have to run. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just that choice in that moment. Oh, man.
80 years ago today, this is from Town Hall Review, President Franklin Roosevelt delivered the largest mass prayer in history up to that point, a radio broadcast for our boys in Europe about to embark with General Dwight Eisenhower, described as the greatest amphibious assault ever attempted, D-Day. In that prayer, FDR described our fight as a crusade and asked his fellow Americans to pray for his will, pray to God for his will to prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. In some units, 90% of the troops were killed or wounded, but the assault managed to cross the beach and drive the Germans inland. We established our toehold in Northern Europe, and the war would soon be over. God bless those boys, those men, and this country. Town Hall Review. Whew. Man, it still gets me today thinking about that.
Me too. Just the choices and the people that knew they probably were going to die that day, but it was doing it for a better cause. That's the part that's just
like
incredible.
18, 19-year-old kids.
I know. That's the part, is they're so early on in their lives, but and what they were facing. And it really was just overwhelming numbers. In some ways, the Americans had learned from Hitler's blitzkrieg. That's a different approach, But they knew that in order to make the landing at Normandy, you had to come with overwhelming numbers. You had to. Yeah. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work. You couldn't come there with just what you thought you could get it done with. You have to come with infinitely more because of losses and everything else. And it has to be that continuous roll of people arriving and more troops. And that was the Blitzkrieg idea that Hitler, and they kind of turned it around and used it against him. And there were some other things. I mean, Hitler deciding to fight two fronts. That's still, wow.
And Russia being one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
A land war against Russia.
Yes, Princess Bride. Absolutely.
My grandfather served in the Pacific Theater, was a radar mechanic on Tinian Island. Tinian is where the Enola Gay took off.
Oh, wow. Nice.
When it went to bomb. But he and I were very close.
Yeah.
And he gave me all of his paperwork when he passed. And so I've been going through and scanning for my family and then sharing them in a Google Drive, all of his war letters.
Oh, wow. How cool.
So he's 18 years old. I've just gotten through the first few of them, but nice scan, nice PDF. So everybody can have them for their own keepsakes as well. But he's 18, 19 years old. He's worried about whether or not his uniform is going to fit.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
So he's writing home to his parents, he had to get it altered and that type of thing because it was a little too big for him. But then the girls that he's meeting off base and all that stuff is fun. It's fun to go back and see all that stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
They were just kids 80 years ago today when they stormed the beaches of D-Day. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. Great stories. This is a big day. 59 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world.
Today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. More than 160,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944, to gain a foothold on Nazi-occupied Europe. More than 9,000 died in the assault. President Biden is marking D-Day at the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial, which is on a bluff overlooking Omaha Beach. Former Nuggets player and coach Bill Hanslick introduced me to John Perozzi about 10 years ago, and he used to come to the Altitude Studios and tell me stories. He passed away a few years ago, but he was a paratrooper who landed in San Maria Glees a few hours before the troops invaded Omaha Beach. He was surrounded by German troops, used up all his ammo, and took a bullet.
So you're still walking around with a German bullet in you?
Yeah.
And you're how old now, John?
94 years old.
Some things Germans make is just keep right on running.
They can't. Nah.
They can't keep me down, man. I love that dude. The story gets even more amazing. I'll honor him this morning throughout the Jeff and Bill show, and all who made the great sacrifice 80 years ago today. Former President Trump is calling on Israel to finish the job in its war against Hamas. Trump gave an interview to Sean Hannity on Fox News Wednesday and said Israel doesn't have the backing of Congress and that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has become like a Palestinian, which he called very dangerous. Ukraine is striking inside of Russia with U.S. weapons for the first time since the Biden administration granted permission last week. A Ukrainian parliament member confirmed that U.S. weapons hit Russia and the Russian logistics and artillery locations. This week, Putin warned of fatal consequences if the U.S. ignores Moscow's warnings that Ukraine should not use weapons provided by Washington to attack Russia. Colorado is a step closer to massive election changes. The state Supreme Court is allowing an initiative for an open primary and ranked choice voting to move forward. The group behind it plans to kick kick off a campaign Monday to gather 124,000 signatures by August so voters can decide in November. But the last-minute amendment by state lawmakers could end up delaying any chance of ranked choice voting. An election bill passed just before the legislative session ends, and now there are calls for the governor to veto it. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Rockies lose to the Reds 12-7 at St. Louis tonight, 5:45 first pitch. 54 in Louisville, 56 in Glendale, and 59 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a sunny, warm, dry day for Denver. Will be mid to upper 80s. Lots of sun, less wind. Lows tonight, low to mid 60s. Partly cloudy on Friday, a warm one in the low to mid 90s. Thunderstorms, a few, will develop by the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit cooler for the weekend, and be ready for afternoon thunderstorms. The weekend will bring late day showers and thunderstorms, and that trend will continue into Monday and Tuesday. Highs near 80 Saturday, 70 Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill, you had another story on D-Day.
Yeah, there was something that popped into my head as Blake was doing his audio that I'd forgotten. There's one very small, weird story that's a favorite of mine surrounding, not necessarily D-Day, but just the invasion and dealing with World War II and dealing with the Nazis. And it was one of the, in my opinion, one of the best stories of quiet rebellion that really messed up the Nazis and their movement around Germany. And it had to do with the guy that was in charge of, oh gosh, it's either Citroën or Peugeot. I don't remember which auto manufacturer it is. The Nazis came in and said, we're taking over. You're now going to be manufacturing military vehicles for the Nazi party. Now, everybody there and the French workers like, no, we don't want to do this. The guy running the plant said, no, do what they say. He pulled one man aside and said, I need you to do something for me, please. It's the guy that made the dipsticks. He asked him to lower the fill level. So he lowered the fill level on all the dipsticks. So what would happen is only several months into vehicle life, the engines would seize up. And the Nazis just thought these are just crappy cars, not understanding they were purposefully filled with oil that was too low. And the thing that was genius was he only involved the one dude. The one person that involved the dipsticks. Nobody else in the factory. It wasn't a huge conspiracy.
Someone will talk about it.
Exactly.
And everybody will get in trouble.
Yep. So just the one person. Yeah, that's the one person that he involved, and he was able to grind some of the Nazi military vehicles to an absolute halt by making that one change. Yeah, I think it's cool. I just think about the idea of, okay, how can I get them? It's not overt, but what can I do to make this thing and gum up the works? Brilliant move. I always appreciate that one. Yeah.
Did you watch Band of Brothers? You watch all those series?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are great.
Oh, they are. And it's one of those that I watch because I know that as much as I sit here and I get, into the intellectual pugilism here, I'm not wired that way. I am not. There's certain times in which, yes, it can be go time. But the idea of the structure inside of the military, I have a real authority problem, and what they're doing and how they go forward. I would not survive. I could not thrive in that environment, and the people that raise their hand and say, I'm giving you my life, my body, and my soul. Damn. I mean, that's tough. That's real heroism.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for the D-Day conversation. Thanks, Joan from Lakewood. All right. Update on the Georgia appeals case coming out of Trump. Yeah, right.
Hey, D-Day 2. Oh, yeah, President's doing crack.
Back to the trials. This from the New York Times. The Georgia Court of Appeals on Wednesday stayed the criminal election interference case against former President Donald J. Trump until an appellate panel could resolve the matter on whether the district attorney in Fulton County should be disqualified from prosecuting the case based on a conflict of interest. In a one-page order, the court stated that any movement at the trial court level pertaining to Mr. Trump and 8 other defendants who have appealed a ruling allowing the prosecutor Fani Willis to remain on the case was stayed pending the outcome of these appeals. Earlier this week, the appellate court set a tentative date for oral argument of October 4th. Legal experts expect the appeals will take months to resolve. The order was more bad news for critics and opponents of Mr. Trump, who had hoped that the president or that he would stand trial in Georgia before he faced off against President Joseph R. Biden in the general election. Mr. Trump and a number of his allies were indicted in Georgia last summer in sweeping racketeering case that accused them of trying to overturn his 2020 election loss in the state. But the case was derailed earlier this year with the revelation that Miss Willis had been romantically involved with a lawyer she hired to manage the case. So not going to probably see this one before the election. Another one gets delayed.
Which again is weird, because if the shoe was on the other foot and it was Joe Biden being charged of X, Y, or Z, there would be a push on the conservative side that we have to have this adjudicated before we send people to the polls. But in this case, we don't have to. In this case, nothing to see here. It's just interesting. I just like pointing out in both sides, just the blatant hypocrisy. They're not really interested in the court mechanisms. They're just really interested in getting.
This is about politics.
Yeah. Well, the idea of why they want them to, not the idea of the court case on Trump, but the idea of delaying it or not delaying it, what we should do or what we shouldn't do.
Want to also show this audio that happened yesterday from Kamala Harris. She went to Jimmy Kimmel, and it didn't go out too well for Kamala.
Stop the genocide! 15,000 children died because of you! Stop the genocide! You're a murderer! 15,000 children! Kamala Harris!
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Stop. You're interrupting my flow. All right. Anybody else? If anyone else has anything to say, this is the time.
1.9 million people.
Just chaos as Kamala Harris has to deal with pro-Hamas protesters.
What I like was, one, just the yelling, "You killed the babies." I'm like, she didn't even go to the southern border. How the hell is she responsible for Gaza? I mean, what the hell's going on there? But the other part is, at the end, you know that there is a floor director that is there kind of figuring out what's going, getting security, getting the people out. And at some point, floor director's like, just play the music. He just had the house band
and the one guy starts strumming the guitar.
Exactly. It's like, we got to do something to break this up here. And that's what I appreciate, because you know that the musician was told, come on, just start, man. Just start. We're moving this on. Yeah, because this is a dead spot in what we're doing. It was fantastic. That was really funny to see from behind the scenes.
Have you ever been to a live taping before of Tonight's Show or anything like that?
Never have. I've got family members that have, but I never have.
I've done 2.
Oh,
I
really?
did Conan O'Brien in New York, and I did Jay Leno in L.A. And Conan, by far, a better entertainer than Jay Leno.
Really?
So Jay Jay had a hype man. They all do. They all want to get you hyped up and excited before the show. So you're laughing a lot. Like you are just having a good time. This is why comedy clubs have drink minimums.
Exactly.
We're going to get you loosey-goosey here.
And you have openers for the headliner is.
Yes.
There's 1 or 2 comedians that come up first. Absolutely.
So a lot of these shows will have a comedian to kind of open it up and get going. Conan didn't.
Really?
we're all sitting there, and the studios are cold, right? And this was in New York, so you're sitting there, and
you have to be cold because of the lights and the cameras and stuff like that. So yeah,
exactly. And you're just kind of sitting there, and then all of a sudden, Hunka Burden Love comes on with the band, and they're playing it, and it's like, I mean, loud and energetic. And Conan comes out and goes up and down the audience, getting people up. Hunka burning love, you know, just like smart. So much energy and excitement. And he's dancing with the crowd. And then he goes and does the show. And it was a ton of fun, all that. Jay had a warm-up guy come, and then Jay just came out and did it like it was kind of work for him.
Yeah, just like you were there watching at home. That's interesting because I recently saw, and it's kind of a tangential conversation, I recently saw an interview with Dee Snider, lead singer of Twisted Sister. And during the interview, he was asked about who is the best frontman in music. Who's the guy? And the interviewer threw out Robert Plant because of Led Zeppelin. And Dee Snider, he took a wild turn. I was like, whoa, I didn't see that coming from Dee. And he said, no. He goes, Plant's an amazing singer, but an awful frontman. How he never talks to the crowd, never interacts with the crowd. He goes, how many times did you hear Robert Plant ever make the crowd laugh? He goes, if you're at a concert and you can do something as a frontman and you can get the crowd to laugh, you're on another level. He said the guy that did it better than anybody else, James Brown.
Nice.
And as soon as he said that, I went, oh, he's right. He's 110%. But I'm like, Twisted Sister, dude? The guy about we're not going to take it anymore is James Brown? I'm like, wow, that came out of left field for me. I would have picked 30 other frontmen that I would have even gone with Freddie Mercury and Queen before I would have guessed he would have gone with James Brown. But then you think about it. Yeah, he's right. He's right. James Brown.
Did you ever see that interview of James Brown where he's like, I'm single, ready to mingle?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He was such a character. I knew a guy that late in James Brown's career worked as his road manager and said that he was just as energetic, personable, charismatic, and chaotic in person. As like it was like he said, it is like trying to gather a storm in order to get him ready and get him up on stage. And there's certain things you got to do. He said it's just you sit there and you just try to keep it inside the guardrails. That's just dealing with James. He said it was amazing, but yeah, it was late in his career too.
All right, we got phone calls coming in. Let's go to Joe in Arvada. Joe, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Morning.
Hi, Jeff. I think, and Billy. I think on D-Day, it's important to look at reality. The left has told us for 2 years Donald Trump is Hitler. We are also told never make any kind of similes or comparison with Hitler. But the truth is, if you go down the list, and I can give you a long list, it is the left that is the new Nazi party. If you want to start at the top, Joe Biden has assumed the role of Der Fuhrer. We have Dr. Mengele equal Dr. Fauci. We have fascism everywhere. If you think you're not influenced by fascism, that's because you are and you don't know it. The businesses are excoriating conservatives. We have the FBI is the Gestapo of our time. The CIA is the SS. We have people in jail for being political prisoners. And let's not forget that the left is now coming full-blown against the Jews. If you think they aren't, take a sniff around what's going on with Gaza. There, you have it.
I appreciate that. I think I agree with you, Joe, on the level of Godwin's law, that inside of a debate or an argument or a scenario, the first group that claims the other side is acting or taking on the mantle of Hitler loses the argument because it's an ad reductum. You're basically at the end of what you can do. And so that is the last gasp. It's like when people call me names here on the text messages. It means to me they can't engage on the intellectual side. It's much easier to call me names. This is the thing, though. But the Godwin's law, no, I agree with you, Joe, on Godwin's law, that I think both sides apply Godwin's law.
For the last 2 years, we have been told that Donald Trump is Hitler.
Oh, yeah. And it's stupid. And no, he's not. He's not. And in no way, shape, or form. The only question I have with you, though, is I appreciate your analogy and I like what you've done with it. The only question I've got is, you talk about Biden being fascist. Wouldn't it be closer to Stalin? I mean, I would say that politically,
no,
he's on that. He's closer there. Fascism is conservative. It's on the right.
That is a misnomer. Let me explain. Let me explain to you. Fascism is not about whether you're on the left or the right. Fascism is this. It is employing business and society and the the levers of power against the opposition party through manipulation. I'll give you an example. Censorship, employing censorship in the news and the newspapers against your opponent. Business, not hiring the opposition. The court systems, biased court systems that have installed leaders that are of your party that internally bias against the other party. This is what real fascism is. If you look carefully in your definitions, it doesn't say, oh, fascism must be conservative. No, in fact, quite the opposite. Fascism, honestly, begins on the left.
No, Joe, it doesn't. Joe, it doesn't.
Just a second. Let's not forget.
Joe, hang on. Joe, no, Joe, no. It's. I understand what you're. I know what you're going to say. The Nazis call themselves something. You can call yourself whatever you want. I get it. But on the political continuum, fascism is more conservative, and it would be on the other side. It is the idea of communism. It's communism, and socialism is on the far side. It has to do with the motivations and how the things are implemented. Because when you get into the idea of communism, I didn't think I was going to do this morning. When you get into the ideas of communism and socialism, it is more of the idea of state run. The idea the state is controlling the economic levers of power, and the state is deciding what the economy is going to do, and the state is going to be making the rules about what you're going to produce. Inside of fascism, it's more of a blend of businesses and more of a blend of small groups. A small group that then targets a separate group and says, "You are the ones that are the reason of the problems that we have here," and then they manipulate. Again, there are things that are. Wait, hold on, one second. Just let me finish first. Please, just for a second. The thing is, it's not like it's a straight stick. The idea in their fundamental principles, it's a bent horseshoe. Fascism and communism and socialism are really, really close cousins. They are so close they could be kissing cousins. But the fundamental, the results of what happens are absolutely true and the same. But on the political continuum, I hate to say this, and this has been true for decades, that the fascism is considered that authoritarianism on the right, where socialism and communism is the authoritarianism on the left. But they're very, very similar. But the basic philosophy inside of them are different. That's just how it works. It's not my opinion. It's people who've been studying this for decades. I'm not making this up. We can't sit here and pretend that fascism is a liberal idea when on the political continuum, it isn't. But who cares? It doesn't mean that the Republicans are fascists. It's not what it means. So stop
American conservatives who want limited government are on the opposite sides of both those.
I understand that, but stop taking it as a personal insult. All you Republicans, stop taking it as an insult. Instead, turn around and say, nope, we're not that because of X, Y, and Z. Because here's the reason. The same reason you turn around and you call the Democrats a bunch of communists. How many times do we have text messages or phone calls here about people saying, well, the communists are taking over the country? Same thing. And now you're going, no, wait, fascists are. Well, then what is the thing on the right? Because what you've said is the fascists are on the left, the communists on the left, the socialists on the left. You have absolved yourself of any of the authoritarianism that is on that side.
We're right.
No, there's authoritarianism on both sides, and it's not intellectually valid. I appreciate the call, Joe, but it's not intellectually valid to talk about fascism being on the left. Stop taking it personally. Just deal with it. Stop it. You're not fascist. Stop it.
I'll lay this out there for you. What is the fascism on the right in America?
The fascism on the right in America has to do with authoritarianism and a deference as far as business has to be the one that is more involved in government. Also, the idea of the authoritarianism when you blend in the church. There's an idea where we are the grouping that knows what is best, and we are going to implement it this way. Most of the delineation is how it is implemented. Who's involved and how it's implemented are the real delineations between communism, socialism, and fascism. It's who's in charge and how we're setting up the systems and the structures, not the end result. That's why stop taking it so personal. The end result, and that's the issue. Are the Democrats being communist right now? No. Are the Republicans being fascist? No, not in the least. Are there authoritarian tendencies on both sides that can lead to those things? Yep, absolutely. Absolutely there are. So yes, and there are some authoritarian tendencies in both parties. When you talk about what people want to be taught in schools on the left, what they want to do as far as climate change and what they want to push as far as some green energy and some other social policies, and there's authoritarianism on the right as far as what choices you're going to be able to make with your bodies, who you can love, who you can get married to, what kind of relationships you can have, what jobs you're able to get, education you have access to. All of that's determined. So yeah. There is a bent on each side, but it's just we need to stop pretending as if it is only one side or the other that's the crazies. Joe is right that it is absolutely ridiculous for a Hitler comparison to Trump. And everyone that does, I feel, debases their knowledge and their standing because he's not. You can talk about he has authoritarian tendencies. Sure, he's expressed those. But Hitler, no way in hell. There's no way he's on that level.
I guess where I have the challenge with what you're saying is, in essentially what you're arguing for is limited government. Like what you just laid out, whether it was right, left, all that stuff was limited government.
Yeah.
Right. We need to have the freedom. This is where you're kind of a classical liberal. We need to have the freedom to be able to choose what we want to do, what we want to say, the way we want to live our lives, all that stuff. There's one side that says that's good, and one side that essentially says, no. We need to have more control in order to advance justice, order, all that stuff.
Here's right? I can flip that. I can flip that on its head for either party.
You don't see Republicans out there running around going, it's bad when people have more freedom.
Yeah, it is. They did it yesterday. We had a conversation yesterday right here on the show about it.
When was that? When was there a law? When were people arguing for government to step in?
Remember the drag show thing? Our candidate yesterday here, Mr. Carson, said that he would.
It had nothing to do with adults. It had to do with kids.
Hold on, no. You were asking about when the government steps in and makes choices for people on their decisions. Hang on, give me the space to answer your question. Okay, the example is our candidate Carson. Sat there and said he would have canceled and prevented any future drag shows at a public venue for the taxpayers. He is making a choice. No. He's making a choice based on what is there. He's not allowing. Guess what he's not allowing? He's not allowing the parents of those kids or anybody in the community to decide whether or not they want to be there. The government has decided what the rules are and what you're exposed to and what your values are. That's exactly what you were saying was the bad thing.
And that's what the left does.
But the right was, but John Carson's here and he was doing it and he's on the right.
But only in one capacity to protect kids, right? He didn't care what adults did.
But your premise was, yes, he did. He cared about the idea.
He didn't. But he wasn't trying to ban stuff that just was consenting adults. It was because this was in a public setting when you have kids involved.
But again, we didn't see that it was necessarily offensive. He drew that it was offensive. We didn't say we have one mistake in which fake breasts were exposed. And he said, never. Hang on a sec. That's your opinion. The other part is not based on contemporary reporting. It is a mistake. Now, the other part is you assume it. And that's the problem is you're assuming they're doing this to harm the kids. And so your assumption is we have to keep them. So again, but you said government doesn't step in and they let people live their lives like they want to. Not in that system. Not in that instance. And I can have a laundry list of other ones in which the right wants to have the government implement their morals and values, and the left does it as well. When the idea is you want limited government, I would assume that anybody that was in favor of Roe versus Wade disagrees with your premise on conservatives and limited government, because they've just been told what they can and can't do with their body.
The leap you're making from I want to be able to do what I want with my body to the conservative side, which is there's actually a third party involved in this that we're defending. So with life, for instance, nobody cares what you do with your body, except for the fact that you're murdering another innocent human being. You don't have that right. So are we stepping in to try to tell people what to do with their bodies? No, we're defending the third party in that relationship.
Not everybody agrees with you on your definition of when that fetus becomes a human being.
They didn't agree with whether or not a slave was property or person
I know,
either.
But here's the idea, but you just proved my point. You just said it doesn't matter if everybody else agrees with my view of it or not. I'm going to implement it. That's the authoritarianism. That's exactly it. Ding, ding, ding. On to the bonus round.
Abraham Lincoln defending the slaves was a form of authoritarianism, Bill?
No, what I'm talking about is in your premise, you're talking about limited government, and the conservatives don't want to tell people what to do. Yes, you do, just like the liberals want to. Absolutely. It's just a matter of what set of values you want to use. And when you talk about protections, the liberals would sit there and say they are protecting kids based on allowing them to choose the gender they want in schools. The liberals would say they are protecting the kids by protecting the planet. I mean, we know these bromides on both sides. It doesn't mean that either side is necessarily all about limited government, because no, not in the least. Conservatives want a lot of government. Conservatives right now are looking at trying to prosecute women that leave their state to have abortions. That is not limited government in any sense of the word. In any sense of the word.
No, Bill, it is because
no, it isn't.
Look, the Democrat. We're going to keep going on this one. The Democrats and the left, when it comes to how we address our problems, believe that the more money they have to be able to build the programs they want to be able to build is going to provide a more just and equitable society. There's never enough tax dollars for them. They'll take as much as they can get. They'll be in control as much as they can get. Conservatives, on the other side, are only interested in the operations of government as it relates to protecting the most basic fundamental human rights. I have no interest.
Disagree.
I have no interest in driving abortion law to control a woman's body. The only reason I'm interested in it is because there's a third party involved with it, which is an innocent human being who shouldn't have their brains sucked out.
But
this has nothing to do with controlling a woman's body.
There are other Americans in this country that don't hold your view on when life starts.
And so
you are implementing that view on them. Hang on a sec. Rather than allowing them to make their choice, you are mandating your choice, just like with gay marriage. Same thing. You're not allowing, in the conservative movement, not allowing that to actually exist. You're going to tell them, no, you can't do that. And to go as far as, imagine if someone in Colorado went to Utah, committed a crime, and then was charged for it in Colorado. That is silly, but that's what conservatives are trying to do right now. That's what's happening.
With that line of reasoning, Abraham Lincoln was a dictator.
How? Square that circle.
Because there were people that did not believe that slaves were people and were property, and he was forcing government upon them.
We fought a war over that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So to put Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans who were fighting and the Unionists fighting for the rights of slaves as people, as somehow big government forcing ideas upon other people.
Well, the only problem you have here,
the same as the radical left, is not right.
The only problem you have here is that our society considers one of those individuals a participating person and the other one not.
Yes,
the fetus doesn't get to participate, and the slave does
in life.
No, in that when at the point in which you're talking about saving them, the idea is you have an existing person, a person that's there right now, and the fetus at that point is a potential life. And so we can talk about it.
It's not a potential
life.
Yes,
it is
a potential
life. No, it is a potential
not
life.
Dead.
No, but again,
my God.
No, it is a potential life, and again, it's about control and making sure that the individual in charge can't make that choice. When you were talking about freeing the slaves, it was for choice. It was allowing those individuals to make those choices. That's fine. That's the issue. And so you are denying the mother in that situation the ability to make the choice. That's okay. Just be honest about it. I mean, we can all have different views on it, but there are other religions. In fact, some of our brothers, the Judeo religion, Jews, don't believe that life begins until you cross the birth canal. So you're forcing a Christian belief on our Jewish brothers and sisters as far as the point of life starting. That's an issue.
Yeah, but Bill, to me, it doesn't seem any different than forcing upon the South the idea that slaves are people and not property. And to say, well, the right and the left are both trying to force their ideas upon people, I don't think they're categorically the same.
The slaves were constrained based on not allowing the freedom and safety and things that you want. That's the issue. It's not the same thing with the fetus.
I think it's exactly the same thing.
No, it isn't, because if the mother didn't exist, the fetus dies. It's not the same thing. If the slave over didn't exist,
without the mother, the toddler dies.
No, not necessarily. No.
Yes, it does.
No.
It's totally dependent upon the mother.
No, not necessarily.
Who else is going to provide for it? Itself? It's not going to provide for itself.
No, but not necessarily. I mean, there are other ways they can provide for itself, but I'm not saying like, raise them as feral kids.
Bill
yeah.
and I thought we weren't going to have anything to debate today.
Not at all. We got some more stuff
text
to do, I'm sure.
messages are basically back and forth on this stuff. Bill, Eric, you know how Eric feels about Bill.
Oh, good. It's great. So even before 6:30, I got my daily insult from Eric. That is great. That's wonderful. It's not a day that goes by, Eric, if I don't get a personal insult for you. Oddly enough, Eric never engages on the topic. It's just about calling me poopy head names.
Doug, Billy, you're correct. The Nazis were extremely right. Extremely right. That's where I'm in libertarianism. In fact, Hitler made a point of incorporating left-wing symbols and terms to fool and subvert the public government attention from their actions. Andrew, Jeff is insane. Telling women what to do with their bodies is the definition of authoritarianism. Telling slave owners to do what they want with their slaves is the definition of authoritarianism. Andrew, I don't know. 806. There are many people that consider Lincoln a dictator, even to this day. Terry in Texas. All right. Well, like I said, I didn't think we were going to have anything to debate. And here we are at 6:40 already getting into it. Look, I want to talk to you about our friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. You know, the Jeff and Bill show named by Westward the top hair, or Jeff and Bill show named by Westward the top talk radio show in Denver. Advanced Hair Restoration named by Westward the best hair restoration organization in Colorado. If you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You'll want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the advanced FUE found in Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. It starts with your free consultation. Call 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, when we come back, we'll give you updates on the Hunter Biden case. Gets a little salacious. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. President Joe Biden, France's Emmanuel Macron, and other world leaders are in Normandy in France to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day. They're joining about 200 veterans who were part of Operation Overlord on the 6th of June, 1944. Special ceremonies are taking place along the coast where more than 150,000 Allied soldiers landed to drive back the forces of Nazi Germany. As Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine rages on, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is attending, but Russian leader Vladimir Putin was not invited. Now, if you're going to be driving in the Big Apple soon, you might not have to worry about those pricey new tolls just yet. From New York, Haley Bianco explains why.
Just weeks before the nation's first congestion pricing system was set to launch, New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced she's indefinitely delaying the plan to charge motorists hefty tolls to drive in the city. The program was expected to raise billions of dollars for New York's subway and commuter rails, while reducing gridlock and air pollution on the city's streets. The plan called for people driving passenger vehicles into Manhattan below 60th Street, roughly the area south of Central Park, to pay at least $15, with larger vehicles paying more.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Well, Billy and I have lit up the text message line here today. Oh, my goodness. They're coming in.
Up here, too. Nobody could stick around. It was nice.
What was the phone calls? What did they say?
One person saying that agreed with me and talking about conservatives and moving and looking at abortion rights and women's rights. And then someone calling in and questioning whether or not my parents were actually related to each other when I was born. So those kind of things, typically normal things in the 6 o'clock hour. Yeah.
Let's see. Lots of text messages about the life stuff. We're going to get into that later, by the way. We're going to host Christine Yeargin. She's a podcaster with Students for Life on this research coming out that about 96% of abortions are just for birth control, not for the health of the mother, that type of thing. So we'll get into that. And also whether or not states should be pushing the 10 commandments in the 7 o'clock hour. That'll be a really interesting discussion. So Nicole Hunt will be joining us from Focus on the Family with her recent Newsweek article that it's right for Louisiana to do that. So we got to get to You Choose the News, Bill. So we'll come right back after that with You Choose the News. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, let's try to do You Choose the News.
All right, let's see if we can accomplish this in the time allotted. Yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. We have scoured interwebs, stupid stories, silly headlines, and nobody's paying attention. You know how this game runs again, but shh, it's a secret. And of course, proudly not sponsored by Roll 'Em Out Shelves. They're a wonderful mother-son team that will solve the clutter issues inside of your bathroom, your kitchen, your garage. But the one thing they won't do is be associated with anything as dumb and silly as You Choose the News. So check out rollemoutshelves.com. They'll give you a free in-home estimate, but don't mention what we're doing right now. Alrighty, gentlemen, here are your stories to choose from. Headline number 1, it's just supplemental. Headline number 2, can you do me a favor? Headline number 3, government wants your love. And headline number 4, 2 words, free beer. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Free beer!
2 words, free beer. We are traveling to Eagle, Idaho, and the Old State Saloon Bar. They have decided, in order to, get on the spirit of Pride Month, they are now going to celebrate heterosexual awesomeness month.
beer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every Monday, they are going to give any heterosexual male that wanders in a free beer. How are they going to know? Because all I'm saying is the normal test is something you probably can't
Are
do
you
in a
willing
bar
to kiss this
or
dude?
in public. I'm just saying, what is it? Because, and again, I look at it as if you think the gay people aren't smart enough to just go, oh, they're wearing that. Okay, I'll wear that and I'll get the free beer. I mean, free beer is a motivator. What do? Are they going to put up some sort of like big poster that shows all the fashions and someone walks in with that fashion? They're like, oh, you know too much about this. Get out of here. No beer for you. I mean,
there's going to be a man in tight pants, leather pants at the bar. And if you glance, then no. No beer.
Again, what if you thought he was a girl? What if you thought he was a girl? You're like, dude looks like a lady. Aerosmith. I mean, come on. I'm just saying. I understand what he's doing. Again, he's a guy that has a podcast that has a grand total of 3 subscribers. So again, I get what he's trying to do, but it's stupid. There's no test for it. He can't. You just have to come in and go, hi, I may be gay as the day long. You walk in there and go, hi, straight guy, give me a free beer. There's no way to test. It's silly, but I appreciate what he's doing. Hey, Blake Olson from the news department. It's just supplemental. Can you do me a favor, or government wants your love?
Oh, let's stay on the theme of all this heterosexual and homosexual and all that stuff. Let's go with government wants your love.
Yes, the government wants your love, especially if you are a resident of Japan. Japan's government is going to debut a brand new dating app. Why in the world would the government get involved in you hooking up? Well, they want more bebes. There is a birth rate problem inside of Japan, but there's something even larger at work here. It's the fact that sometimes guys lie about how big it is. No, stop. No, take your mind out of the gutter. I'm talking about salaries.
Bank account.
Yes.
Yep. That's where the real lying takes place.
In Japan, on the dating apps, it is often at times, in order to, pump up your appeal to the ladies, you lie about how much your salary is, and there's no way for them to verify. The Japanese government says with our new dating app, we'll verify exactly how big it is. I know.
That's not fair.
It is. Totally
That's what the ladies really care about.
But again, but the thing is, and I understand,
Gold
because
diggers.
guys, the only thing we lie about as far as size is salaries. That's the only thing. Nobody ever lies about anything else as far as size having to do with us, with how tall we are, or anything else. Never. Only about the salary. It's very important.
Well, you know what they say about the Japanese. No,
jeez, don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff,
They're
last
good
choice this morning.
pitchers.
It's just supplemental, or can you do me a favor?
Can you do me a favor?
Can you do me a favor? A juror was dismissed in Minneapolis earlier this week when a stranger showed up at her door with a bag of $120,000 in cash and said there's more where this came from if you vote to acquit. No, this was not one of the Trump trials. These were guys that were accused of stealing more than $40 million from a program meant to feed kids during the pandemic. They were trying to fix the jury.
Boy, of course those guys would do that.
Yeah, of course. And again, she came in, and part of the reason she said is she's like, they messed with the kids. You don't mess with the kids. You don't do that. So that's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. Remember, rollthemoutshelves.com. Free estimate. Back to you, sir.
All right. In the 7 o'clock hour, Billy and my wife are going to discuss the 10 Commandments.
Wait, what? You didn't tell me this. What?
This will be fun. Can he withstand the real intellectual power in the Hunt family? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. This seems not fair.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City, and I guess we're encouraging you to drink Coors Light at 7 in the morning. That was the old Pete Coors ad, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was. That was great. That was such a callback. I remember standing there in the river next to him.
Yeah, that's
cool.
right.
Yeah.
What was the name of that little waterfall? I think it's called like the Rabbit,
I have no idea.
White Rabbit Waterfall or something like that.
It's not called Beer Waterfall. I don't know, but
yeah. Brewed in the Rocky Mountains, Coors Light. By the way, the story on how that was created was fascinating. Do you know that?
On how what was created?
Coors Light.
Oh, no idea.
Jeff Coors created it.
Really?
And Jeff was on the board of Colorado Christian, still is on the board of Colorado Christian University. And we had dinner one time. I was like, what was it like growing up in that family, man?
Oh, yeah. I knew a couple of the Coors kids.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Like that, like the legacy and inheriting all that. And he's like, well, in high school, you were sent out to Europe to learn how to brew beer. Not drink beer, but brew beer. Like it's a science, it's chemistry. And Jeff
it is.
Majored in chemistry, I think from Cornell or something like that. He comes home from summer one day and his dad, who is the CEO of Coors, goes, there's this new thing out there called Miller Lite. And we need to come up with our own version. So go figure it out, Jeff.
Oh, wow.
So he went and created Coors Light.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I was taking a bunch of young conservatives one time, CJ Pearson, Benny Johnson, those types of guys skiing. And Jeff joined us. And I was like, this is the guy who created Coors Light.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
they're all like college stage at that point. Dude, you could have brought in like a saint and they would have been more excited that this was the dude that created Coors Light. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
We're in college. That's water.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
That's basically what we live off.
The only person would have been cheered more is the guy that created Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. It's the only guy. It's the only guy.
Old Milwaukee.
Yep, that's it. Oh, the beast.
All that good stuff.
Milwaukee's best.
What are you talking about 7 in the morning? Well,
beer.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. Well, good morning. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and most of the time pretty crazy. If you listen to the text messages, that's definitely where people feel I am these days. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up just after the news, the state of Louisiana wants to put the 10 Commandments in all public school classrooms. A good thing or a violation of the separation of church and state? Well, Focus on the Family thinks this is a good thing. They're going to join us to explain the reasons why, and Bill's not going to let them off the hook. The classical liberal is going to hold Nicole's feet to the fire.
It's just not okay. I can't win this.
I have found Bill's kryptonite.
Oh, this is awful. I can't. Oh, and it's a good piece too. It's great that she got a Newsweek, and it's a good piece. And this is gonna suck.
He's gonna be talking with my wife Nicole Hunt, who's a spokesperson and policy analyst for Focus on the Family. So not gonna want to miss this. Later in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to get into a new study coming out that shows that a vast majority, 95% of abortions look like they're for purely birth control, not for the health of the mother, not because the baby's got a life-threatening disease, none of that stuff, just birth control. Does that change your opinion on this stuff? And then MAGA plans to put their opponents in prison. New Axios article about what Donald Trump's second term may look like. Get into all this and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, guys. Have you ever noticed the natives? We know how to say Coors. And, if someone's not from Colorado, they say Coors.
Coors.
Do you ever notice that?
Coors, like two.
Long
like
nose.
CORES.
Yeah.
And then someone's not from Colorado when they say Coors or Arvada.
Yeah. Or Westminster. There's no other I-N in there. Yeah, it says
Westminster.
Yeah, minister. Yeah.
Minister. They want to put the 10 Commandments on all the schools there as well.
Yes, they do.
All right, guys, 61 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savages. The free men of the world are marching together to victory.
That's the great General Eisenhower. President Biden is joining the president of France to commemorate the 80th anniversary of D-Day. U.S. and allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy of France's on France's northern coast on June 6, 1944, to battle and defeat the Nazis. Biden is drawing comparisons between the Allied fight in World War II and the war Ukraine faces in Russia. He did that about 10 minutes ago, and there will be plenty of pushback on that. We'll have more on that next hour. Bill Hanslick introduced me to John Perosi about 10 years ago. JP used to tell me just incredible stories. He passed away a few years ago. He was a 19-year-old paratrooper who landed in San Maria Glise a few hours before troops invaded Omaha Beach. He took a bullet that was lodged near his heart his entire life, jumped out of planes 3 more times, and fought in the Battle of the Bulge after D-Day. Colonel Oliver North featured him on his show, and JP never forgot those who didn't make it.
War is not like that. Heroes under them white crosses, they're the ones that you leave behind.
The late, great John Perosi. Russian President Putin says he would consider deploying conventional missiles within striking distance of the United States and Europe if they let Ukraine use Western weapons to strike Russia territory. Putin called it a serious escalation and said it was wrong to assume Russia would never use nuclear weapons. Former President Trump calling on Israel to finish the job in its war against Hamas, and said Israel doesn't have the backing of Congress, and that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has become like a Palestinian. Trump said lawfare is one of the many things destroying our country.
It is weaponization of the election. And we're talking about, I think, the most important election in the history of our country. This will go down, I believe, as the most important election in the history of our country. We can't have this stuff go on, because you know what? When Biden goes out, everyone says bye-bye, and then he gets indicted 2 days later and they go after him. The country doesn't want that.
Investigators say former Colorado Bureau of Investigation DNA analyst Missy Woods has admitted to purposefully deleting data. An investigation into her work was launched after evidence surfaced following or showing that she altered, omitted, and tampered with DNA testing results, calling her body of work into question. Woods worked for CBI for 29 years, and authorities say more than 650 cases have been affected by her questionable work. How do you continue that? I mean, I guess after 1 year, you say, I can do that another 2-3 decades. God, it's incredible.
I mean, to set up our society to have to relitigate all of these cases, to put innocent people behind bars, to possibly create a situation where guilty people are now released from prison.
It blows me away. When I first heard about that, what was it, about a year ago?
We had
6 months ago.
6 months ago, we had George on, because George had worked with this person as well too, to talk about it.
It's amazing.
Blake, going back to Trump real quick, isn't it nice to have somebody that clears, like, just finish the job, be done? I'm not going to sit here and micromanage the war that you're fighting, other country.
Well, and they're gonna they're gonna hear about it from everyone on the left, and they're hearing about it already. You talked about Kamala Harris. I mean, they end up eating their own on the left.
That's exactly right.
And that's what we see happening. So no, it is the clarity with which Trump is speaking right now, and the confidence is pretty amazing. I mean, he's just rolling. that dude is, I mean, someone told me that, two old guys. I mean, there's not a good choice. I'm like, are you kidding me? The guy is walking around like he's 55 years old. It's pretty incredible.
Wall Street Journal did this big piece yesterday, 20 minutes to read it on Biden and his problems and stuff like that. It wasn't that compelling. I mean, they just kind of got back to, well, we talked to people in Washington, D.C., and he struggles in meetings. It's like,
right. And that one, when that came out yesterday and we talked about it, to me, that is all from the Democrats. They orchestrated all this as far as I know.
The piece or putting
the piece. Yeah. I
do you think they want him out before the convention?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, tomorrow I think we should start an over under. I say 35 days, whatever and maybe over under 35 days. I mean, the bottom line, he's not gonna make it 4 years, let alone 4 months. So
the fact that he has good days and bad days just reminds you of somebody that's older like that. That's the way life is. As you get older, you're going to have good days where you're on top. I'm 42. I feel like I have good days and bad days.
Let me tell you something. Yesterday, I felt like I was 92 years old. I did. I barely got through that last newscast. But I'm sick.
It's because you've been moving too, bro.
Yeah, that's true. And I had I've had a couple hours of sleep. I have excuses. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. Rocks lose to the Reds 12-7, and St. Louis takes on the Rockies tonight, 5:45 first pitch. 59 in Lakewood, 56 in Castle Pines, 61 in Denver, and I think it's 58 in Westminster. Jeff and Bill continue. I know it's Westminster. I know.
Yeah, text message just blowing up right now. What's the temperature in Buena Vista, too?
There you go. Now that one, I get into it with my wife on that one. All right, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a sunny, warm, dry day for Denver. Will be mid to upper 80s. Lots of sun, less wind. Lows tonight, low to mid 60s. Partly cloudy on Friday, a warm one in the low to mid 90s. Thunderstorms, a few, will develop by the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit cooler for the weekend, and be ready for afternoon thunderstorms. The weekend will bring late day showers and thunderstorms, and that trend will continue into Monday and Tuesday. Highs near 80 Saturday, 70 Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Bill and I were just talking about the Wall Street Journal article. That should have been 2 paragraphs. Yeah. It was a headline about his mental incapacities, Biden's mental incapacities, and there was nothing new in it. No. It's like Republicans feel like, and then Democrats feel like Donald Trump's missing it. And then they use clips from speeches and they go back and forth. And it was like, what?
Yeah. And
that's a Wall Street Journal headline.
And the part that got me was, and again, I'm okay with them using unnamed sources, but when McCarthy is the biggest name that's in there, and the problem I have is with him talking about it, there are a lot of times, and she was like, no, Biden was fine. And you're like, oh, and whether or not he was right about it or wrong about it, the issue is there are 2 different quotes. And as soon as he came out, as soon as McCarthy was the name in the article, I'm like, well, crap, because I know those quotes exist. And so the Democrats, of course, are going to use this on the other side. And it would have been much smarter, in my opinion, if the Wall Street Journal would have only cited Democrats, like what Blake was talking about. If it's Democrats are all concerned, now we've got something. I think a little sexier.
The only compelling part of that, but it's just and it's the way politics was we interviewed Democrats. They shared the recordings with the White House, and then they called back to tell us that everything was fine. I'm like,
exactly.
Wow,
I know. I appreciate
how it works there.
You know what would be kind of fun is, in all honesty, take that story and make it the 2 paragraphs like what you said.
Yeah,
here's what they were allowed to say, and then just run a blank half of the bottom. Say, this is what the White House allowed the Democrats to say about them, and then just turn the bottom half of the page blank. That's more effective.
It was a swing and a miss for me because I don't know. Maybe we just pay attention to this stuff more than other folks, but I mean, it wasn't anything super compelling. In a second, we're gonna have Nicole Hunt join us. She's a spokesperson for Focus on the Family. She's wrote an op-ed here titled "Louisiana is right to want the 10 Commandments in classrooms." This gets into Louisiana wanting to mandate this in public schools. Louisiana is supposed to become the first state in the nation to require schools which accept public funding to post the 10 Commandments in every classroom. This welcome development comes on the heels of former Bremerton High School football coach Joe Kennedy's win at the U.S. Supreme Court in 2022. By the way, we hosted Joe at the Western Conservative Summit a few years ago. Fun guy. In the 6-3 decision, the court ruled the coach's silent prayers on the 50-yard line following the game didn't violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Proponents of the bill contend that if it's legal to silently pray on school grounds, it's constitutional to post a multi-millennial old document that's been foundational in the creation of our nation's laws. The proposal directly challenges Stone v. Graham, a 1980 Supreme Court decision that struck down 10 Commandment classroom displays across the country. Joining us in the Jeff and Bill show is Nicole Hunt. She's a spokesperson and pro-life analyst for Focus on the Family. Nicole, thanks for being on the program.
Yeah, morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So if the name sounds familiar, I wake up every morning next to this young lady.
Yeah, our guest gets to see Jeff naked. Sorry, had to go there. That's just kind of my role.
Nicole, tell us about the position you're arguing in Newsweek that this should be on the walls in classrooms, the 10 Commandments.
Sure. So, I mean, what's happened in Louisiana is you have lawmakers who would like to see the 10 Commandments posted in classrooms at schools that accept public funding. And I believe the time is ripe for the Supreme Court to potentially rehear this case. If the governor signs this into law, it is very likely, if not completely certain, that it will be challenged by ACLU and organizations like them. And given the fact that the test that was used originally to ban these displays from classrooms has been abandoned by the Supreme Court in lieu of a new test, which actually looks at the history and the practices, and the understandings of the framers at the time that the Constitution was adopted and following it. I think there's a really good case to be made that none of our framers ever thought that the 10 Commandments would be considered establishing religion. And so this is a case that should be reconsidered. And ultimately, I think it will probably be overruled.
Now, Nicole, would you believe, or would you argue that it's correct that in places like Dearborn, Michigan, if Islamic communities wanted to put Islamic tenets on the walls of their public schools, they should be allowed to do so?
So, I mean, I think we'd have to just apply this similar test, right? Is looking back to the historical practices, and the understandings of the framers, would they have considered that an establishment of religion? Obviously, there weren't very many people posting Islamic laws or referencing them in code, state code. So I wonder that there would probably not be enough evidence to suggest that. But ultimately, it would be something that the Supreme Court would have to look back to history and see if applying that new test, if those postings would be permitted in the classroom.
So the real emphasis here is on the history, the connection of the 10 Commandments to the history of the United States, not necessarily the push to promote a religion?
That's right. It really is. For example, even before the Lemon test was officially rejected by the Supreme Court, they heard a case called Marsh v. Chambers. In this case, someone was challenging the fact that the Nebraska legislature wanted to pay a chaplain to pray and do other things for the state assembly. And so those challenging it said this was a violation of the Establishment Clause because government money shouldn't go to pay a chaplain. And at that time, what the court said, by not looking at the Lemon test, but looking at history and practices of the framers, the court said that it wasn't a violation of government-sponsored actions because at the time that the Constitution was passed, there actually were men who were paid legislative chaplains who were opening prayers for the framers. So it was not a violation of the establishment of religion.
What would you say to families that are atheistic or Islamic or Hindu or Sikh or any other who find the 10 Commandments offensive? They don't believe they're true. They don't want their kids learning these, and they'd be frustrated that the government would be pushing this upon their children in schools. How is this any different than like putting pride flags up?
Well, I would tell them this isn't an establishment of religion because the Ten Commandments have a special significance as part of America's Western cultural and legal heritage. So the Ten Commandments are part of our heritage, and throughout American history, displaying them in public places and in the classrooms has served as an acknowledgement of their influence in the development of our laws and our morality. And so I would encourage them that this is something that's important for them to know as residents or potentially, citizens, new citizens of America. This is part of the American historical legacy. And it's something that they should embrace for the significance that it has and the significance that it gives to our law and to our practices.
Nicole Hunt, wife of Jeff Hunt and a spokesperson for Focus on the Family, joining Jeff and Bill, recently had a wonderful article posted in Newsweek about Louisiana law that looks like it's going to be able to post 10 commandments inside the classroom. I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, if you could, Nicole. What do you feel is the core purpose of posting the 10 commandments in the classrooms?
I think it's educational. Like I said, it's part of our legal and Western cultural heritage. It's something, if you look back to framers of the Constitution, if you look back to original laws and statutes that were passed in the colonial era, you'll see that actually 12 out of these 13 original colonies instituted the entire 10 commandments into their state law. Our presidents, for example, the 6th president of the United States has an entire quote, and he talks about the fact that the law given from Sinai was a civil and municipal as well as a moral and religious code. And it contains statutes that are universally applicable, laws essential to the existence of men in society, and most of which have been enacted by every nation which ever professed any code of laws. That was President John Quincy Adams. So there is an understanding that when this country was founded, that 10 commandments served as a foundational beginning point for having a moral and civil society, a universal set of codes that would inspire good behavior and a thriving society.
Why this government document? Why not choose something else? Why does it have to be this one that we have to post on the walls as the foundation?
Because this was the one that served as the universal code according to our framers and according to Western cultural heritage.
Well, I think Western cultural heritage might disagree a little bit, especially Hammurabi might disagree, and so would King Ur-Nammun. I mean, that would be a better list of actual laws that some of the stuff that we're based on, given
we're
how
talking
it's
about
structured.
Western.
No, but you're talking about,
heritage.
but again, you're talking, but it is Western cultural heritage because those are the 10 commandments. The other laws were based off of those. Those are the earliest form of laws, and that's how it builds out of. So it is part of the heritage, and it's also a little closer to being applicable. But when you go back to the idea of our basis of laws, I feel the message is missed in the classroom because we are not talking about adults like you and I and interpreting the cultural significance of the 10 commandments. The kids are going to be sitting there in class and they're going to be told this is the foundation for our laws and our society and what we do. And when they look down that list, 3 of them are laws. 3. That's a problem, isn't it? That when we say this is the basis of our laws and our codes that we live by, but only 3 of them are actual laws?
Well, traditionally, the last 6 are considered universal. Honoring your father and your mother, not committing murder, not committing adultery, not stealing, not lying, and not wanting other things. And whether or not we're talking about laws that are still on the books, these are the laws that are considered to promote good society.
Well, if we're talking about
do we want our kids to live and be a part of producing good society? Yes, we do.
Okay, I'm a little confused because earlier when I asked about the purpose, you were talking about it being historical. And now you've just gone to the idea that we need to make the kids good students and good people. That's a different purpose than your original claim as far as why the purpose, the 10 commandments, are going to be listed there. The other part is, I understand the idea that, again, you're discussing this in an adult situation on the implications of the 10 commandments. But the child sitting in the classroom sees 3 as laws. They have cognitive dissonance over that when you sit there and tell them these are the basis for our laws, but we've only made 3 of them something you can be punished for. Only 3. That's it. That you understand, they look at that and go, you're not telling me the truth. If you gave them a mathematical formula that only worked 3 out of 10 times, they would say your formula sucks. Same thing.
Bill, the Ten Commandments are educational. This is part of our legal history and cultural heritage. And yes, as they look at that, they may or may not know that there are 3 that are laws or 3 that are not laws, but they should absolutely know that this exists. It's part of our history. And just like people are allowed to privately pray at the 50-yard line, and that's not an establishment of religion, educating children about the Ten Commandments, their historical perspective, their historical ability to influence our law and our culture is also not an establishment of religion. That is not the government telling them they have to follow it.
I'm never
educating them about it.
I'm not arguing establishment of religion. I'm talking purpose. And you keep switching purpose, because originally you keep going from the idea of the historical nature, the kids need to know it, and then we have to make the kids into good students. And for making the kids into good students, I would submit their writings from Paul, their writings from Mark. You could put the Beatitudes up, and that is a much better influence about being a good person. But again, and I come back to the Ten Commandments, and you understand the historical significance, but the kids may look at that and they see number one. Number one isn't a law. How do they interpret the rest of them? Again, only 3. The idea is that, for me, as the kids sit there, it doesn't accomplish the goal that you want. I feel that this ends up being a lot of grandstanding, because the kids are going to look at it and go, well, only 3 of these things that you're telling me are our basis of laws are actually the laws and the rules. I don't think
maybe we'll add some more laws, but
the purpose is educational, Bill.
Okay, but if it's educational, why pick that document? Couldn't we do
because
emancipation
it's the
population?
Of our legal and cultural Western heritage.
Why don't we put up the Federalist Papers? Because that's the foundation of how the government was created. That would be much more applicable. Given, if we're talking about the history and founding of the country, the Federalist Papers are much more important than the Ten Commandments.
See, this is what I think is fascinating, because if Louisiana does the governor signs this law into being, and it is challenged, this is exactly what we're doing right now, which is discussing the historical precedent and the stories around what's relevant and what's not relevant. That's exactly what the Supreme Court's going to have to do. And so I think it's going to be fascinating to see, because of course there will be a lot of amicus briefs presented. Each side will make their case, the lawyers will. But the question is, looking to the history, there will be folks, of course, who are making arguments like you, that should include other documents, or this document's not special. And then, of course, there will be many looking to see, okay, what did the framers of the Constitution think? And what laws were passed at the time of the Constitution that would suggest that, because ultimately what it comes back to is this an establishment of religion? And if the framers of the Constitution did not believe that posting the Ten Commandments was establishing a religion by the federal government, then it is not an establishment of religion.
See, now, I disagree with one of the characterizations there. I never said the Ten Commandments weren't special. And I understand, and this is the thing that I've got a problem with this, is because we get into this argument about whether or not it's an establishment of a state religion. For me, my core is, does this accomplish the stated goal? And it doesn't. And because of that, it ends up being grandstanding. If you look at the implications of better way to put it. You wander into your child's classroom, look at what's on the walls. How many
mostly
of them?
LGBT stuff these days.
That's not where I'm going, man.
But it is. It is. It's like crazy amount of stuff like that.
I know, but I didn't finish my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
You look on the walls. How many of them tell you no? None of those signs, nothing there is about telling you no, don't do this or stop. The posters and the things there are about encouragement.
Man, that's a good point.
That's the issue, is we have a list of no's. That's why the
Beatitudes.
Beatitudes.
We need some more no's up there.
What we need the Beatitudes. You need encouragement. If the teachers have decided inside of the classrooms the best messages they have are encouragement, then we need to find the message that offers the encouragement. If we have a list of 10 no's, isn't going to resonate.
That's a great point. This makes me like it even more. But let me ask you this question.
It's not going to get you to the point you want to be. It's not going to resonate with the kids because of that.
Do you think American kids attending government-run schools know the historic basis of our laws?
I think there are a lot of things that kids at government-run schools don't know. Among that is that. Absolutely.
They don't know math either.
Yes, there's a large number of things. And I think that absolutely our civil education in this country is crap. I would barely give it a D. Barely.
Yeah.
It's awful.
So wouldn't this be good, though?
No,
Wouldn't it be good to have some no's on the wall?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think there is any good, because the idea inside that classroom, it should be encouraging. And I think the teachers have shown us over decades that putting a list of giant no's there doesn't seem to work. They get more results with the encouragement. And what I'm looking at is, I go back to what your wife said very eloquently, the idea of encouraging these people to be good students and to be good members of society.
Yeah.
That's accomplished elsewhere in the book that we share in our faith. That's in the Beatitudes. That's in writings from Paul. That's in writings from Mark. There's so many other things. I mean, imagine what would happen. I don't care what religion the kid is, but give me a second here. Imagine if the Beatitudes are on that wall instead of the 10 Commandments. There are kids there that are not believers that are still going to have that message resonate with them. If we're talking about making them good citizens, if we're talking about it being historical perspective, there are many, many other documents that are much more applicable and would do more to add context. Well, here's the idea.
Because I think this was why you claim Code of Hammurabi was before this. I think that and therefore should have some type of precedent, because the 10 Commandments was based off of it.
Not precedent. I'm just talking about the germination of the list and the rules. And Kim Ir-Namun is much better, because that's an actual list of, if you do this, you have to pay this. If you do this, here's a consequence. It's an actual list in a tablet form. It's the oldest list we have.
But to Nicole's point, I don't think it had the influence on the formation of Western civilization like the 10 Commandments did.
Well, here's the problem: is they come out of that. That's the issue.
And so you can make that, or you could say
that's what happened.
Historians have found that, but I also think you could make the argument that the Western civilization traditions that we inherited were primarily influenced by the fact that a guy named Moses started writing on tablets what the rules were, and the Jews provided law to Western civilization, and that should be honored and taught to kids. And that was important.
And the reason he did that is because the examples in the past. He took
I don't know if you can make that case that Moses was really influenced by the Code of Hammurabi.
It's actually Ir-Namun, but that's the more applicable one in this set.
So
but it's the issue of the list of it's a list of rules that was there to put constraints and things inside of society. And so that's why other religions and other societies did it as well. They were just the ones that did it first. That's the oldest one that we have. That's it.
You would be disagreeing with former Chief Justice Rehnquist, who argued that it was undeniable that the 10 Commandments have had a significant impact on the development of secular legal codes in the Western world.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
That was an opinion that he wrote on the issue.
I never disagreed with that. I never said that was unimportant. No, you're mischaracterizing it. I'm just saying that cutting it off and saying it was the first.
This is why the 10 Commandments is unique and special, and why we're saying the 10 Commandments versus any of these other documents that you're talking about.
Yeah, but it still don't get to the purpose, though. That's the thing. We don't accomplish the purpose you're getting to.
Here's a question I have for listeners, and we're up against a commercial break here, so I'd love to hear from you all. Would you want the 10 Commandments implemented in classrooms here in Colorado? Do you think our government-run schools would be better? We don't have to jump, or maybe we can. If you think there's something better than the 10 Commandments to be up on the walls, I'm happy to. But when we go into government-run schools, all I see is Marxist thinking baloney all over the walls about how there's systemic oppression and that we need to confront in intersectionality, and we need to fight the oppressors, that type of stuff. I mean, Tim Hernandez, you've seen it down at the state capitol, the pictures of what his classroom walls look like. Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Or is this an argument for school choice, right? I want my kids to grow up being taught the Bible, the teachings of the Bible. I should be allowed to send my kids to that school. Or maybe a Hillsdale school. Or maybe if you're a radical Boulder leftist and you want your kids to learn that they're systemically oppressed, then you can send them to their schools. Or should we put the 10 Commandments up? I think our culture would be a lot better if we had the 10 Commandments in all the classrooms and that we were teaching, and maybe some no's. To Bill's point, I think he made me like this even more. I want some no's on that classroom wall. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. I want to thank Nicole Hunt with Focus on the Family with her article, Louisiana is Right to Want the 10 Commandments in the Classroom. You can read that in Newsweek. Nicole, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
All right.
I thought we were going to continue with her. I'm sorry, Nicole. I put you on hold, and that's why I came back. So I was going to talk to her off the air in a second. She's been absolutely delightful here. Nicole, hang on hold. I'm going to talk to you for a second.
Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves. I just had roll-em-out shelves put into my house, and they are awesome. Every day, we used to have like really deep shelves where you had to reach way back there to grab all that stuff. Now we can pull them all out and be able to access that stuff. Joyce and Brent with Roll 'em Out Shelves are absolutely wonderful people that install high quality shelving in your kitchen, in your bathroom, in your laundry room. They are fantastic. Is one of the perks of getting to work here is I got to meet with them and get this stuff installed in my house so I could talk about it honestly. This is high quality material. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. rollemoutshelves.com. Man, I think Bill and I found an inadvertent
agreement.
difference.
You both like your wife. She's fantastic. I just had the most delightful conversation with her off the air. She is fantastic, and just I appreciated everything. And again, I agree with her on so many points. I agree with her on the idea of the lemon test. I agree with her on the idea of what the framers are looking for as far as separation of church and state and her application of law. She's right. I just approach it differently based on a look at the purpose. And I'm not certain that posting it accomplishes the purpose that we think it's going to. And that's where I think it is. I think it ends up being grandstanding. It's basically ends up being, much ado about nothing. We feel good about it as adults, but the impact it's going to have on the kids is going to be negligible at best. So that's the problem I got.
Rod from Littleton, the 10 Commandments are a guide to be a good person. Yes, some are laws and others are to help you become a good person. Expose kids to things that will help them be good people.
But couldn't we
Not
do something
all
else?
will follow, but it is our responsibility to give them a foundation to be a good person. Rod, I agree with you.
Well, I'd say here's a list, Rod. Take a list of the 10 Commandments and take a look at the Beatitudes. Tell me which one is telling you to be a good person.
I want both of them.
I
want regular Bible.
Tell me which one's telling you to be a good person. The other one's telling you not to. The other one's encouraging you to be. It's different. It's different, Rod. It's different, man.
I like the idea of no. 10 Commandments. No, the Constitution and all accompanying amendments. Absolutely, Gabe. I think that's the way our school currently is. Suzanne, I believe in the separation of church and state. So no.
That's interesting, Suzanne. I've got a, and we never got into it. I was hoping that we could get into the discussion maybe another time with your wife is if we like this and we're going to put the religious statements in schools, what state symbols can we now mandate that have to go into churches? Can we mandate they put up the Colorado flag? Can we mandate they put up the, I don't know, maybe it's just the Constitution. Maybe we mandate other things.
I like one-way mandation.
I know, but that's the issue. The issue is if you're going to start blending the schools and the churches, you're going to blend the government. And the government can come in and tell the church what to do. That's going to be fun this month, isn't it?
It does in some capacities on what they can do with their money and, to remain your nonprofit status. You can't get involved in politics, that type of thing.
They hold that one real quick. They're real sticklers on that one. Yeah.
Nicole is right. 10 Commandments and Christian Bible studies should be taught in every public school. This is how it was in America until the satanic communists took over. Text message from 5600. There's no separation of church and state. A country can serve God or Satan, one or the other, not both. 5600.
Well, I would just ask 5600 why the founders didn't establish a state religion then, if there is no separation. They had the opportunity.
See, that's where it gets a little complicated because a lot of the states did.
I know, but
they actually had religious tests. Like you had to be like very specific in your religion. You could be like a Methodist or a Presbyterian to hold office.
That's why JFK was a big deal that he was a Catholic.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rod from Littleton, have you been to a school lately? Maybe we need more no's in the classroom. Man, we're getting a lot of text messages. So give us a call, 303-696-1971. We'll get to Ralph in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. An appeals court in Georgia has put the state's election subversion case against Donald Trump on hold while it considers a request to disqualify the lead prosecutor over a conflict of interest. Ira Spitzer has the details.
A 3-judge panel will now have until next March to rule on the appeal by Donald Trump and 8 of his co-defendants that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's romantic relationship with the special prosecutor she hired to work on the case was a conflict of interest. The first oral arguments are scheduled for September, just 2 months ahead of the election. 2 other criminal cases against the former president for alleged election interference and mishandling classified documents have also been delayed, meaning the New York hush money case, which resulted in a guilty verdict last week, may be the only one to go to trial ahead of the November vote.
Boeing's Starliner capsule has finally blasted off into space with 2 NASA astronauts on board after lengthy delays. It's docking with the International Space Station after being sent into orbit from Cape Canaveral in Florida. This first crewed mission is taking place almost 10 years later than it was originally scheduled due to technical gremlins. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Lots of great text messages coming in. We just hosted Nicole Hunt from Focus on the Family on an op-ed she had written in Newsweek, arguing that it's going to be good if the state of Louisiana posts the 10 Commandments. Let's go to the phone lines. Ralph, you're on from Colorado Springs. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Ralph.
Hi, Jeff. Yeah, you're right about the religious tests that were used in the states by the founders and the framers.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the only one that couldn't use a religious test is in Article 6 of the Constitution. Says the feds can't, but the states could.
Yeah.
For decades after it was passed. Also, what we have forgotten is that Bill is right, and there was a connection of church and state. The state taxes of many of the states were used to fund state-sponsored churches. The last one to cease this was, excuse me, the Puritans got state funding from the state of Massachusetts until 1835. So you had states like Maryland, which were Catholic. You had states like the Episcopals in Virginia with Jefferson. And I think the Virginia taxes to support the Episcopal Church went on through 1820.
And Ralph, I actually am against that because what happened in Germany when Hitler rose up is because most of the pastors got their paychecks from the state. They wouldn't criticize the guy.
Absolutely. And see, that's the thing that everybody is saying, oh, yeah, the founders were so great. Let's go back to 1787. Well, you forget what 1787 was like. You take the good stuff, but you forget the bad stuff.
I do think that's fair. And I have noticed there's some revisionism that takes place, even among the right, where for whatever reason, they don't think that the Jim Crow laws were that bad, or the way women were treated in business wasn't that bad. And that, the kind of new rise of socialist Marxism, social Marxism in our culture is such a threat that we need to go back entirely to the way things were in the 50s and 60s. I think it's fair to look back and go, there were some good things, but there's also things I don't want to take forward.
Yeah, and I think that's the big question we have is everybody who is trying to support the Ten Commandments says, 1787 was great. Well, 1789, with the Bill of Rights, said there shall be no cruel and unusual punishment. And yet there was the whipping post in every town square, and there was a gallows for hangings in every town square.
But Brian, Ralph, I think it's fair, though. I think it's very fair to say that the secularization that's taken place in our culture from the 60s on, this kind of radical idea of separation of church and state, has essentially left our kids without moral foundations, swaying in the wind, blown by whatever cultural wind brings next. And I don't think that's right either. So I think it's fair to critique. I'm just out of time, Ralph. Thanks so much for the call. Guys, I want to talk to you about QC Kinetics. We're all dealing with pain as we get older, joint pain, elbow pain, back pain. Are you tired of living with constant back pain, robbing you with the joy in your life? You're not alone. It affects millions, impacting the quality of life. There's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, joint pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement, but why risk surgery when there's a safer option? With no downtime and a free consultation, QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics. Revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. Give them a call today, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's a great website. Pain-free Colorado. Is that where we get to if we want to get rid of the radical left in Colorado?
I think so.
There's no more pain here. Painfreecolorado.com. Schedule a consultation today and tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. Brian, you'll be up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking, should the 10 Commandments be up in government-run public schools? Let's go to Brian. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, another great topic. I always find it so hypocritical that it's the same people that want me to be tolerant, God-fearing, law-abiding Christian citizen, to be tolerant with Marxist, anti-American things all over the walls, and pride and LGBTQ plus all over the walls. But then if you want to have the 10 Commandments on the wall, they're totally against it. And it's so hypocritical. What in the 10 Commandments, what in there is so bad that you wouldn't want somebody to read it and say, hey, those are pretty good guidelines. What in it is wrong? I mean, the purpose isn't indoctrination. The purpose is, there's a book called Like a Rock, Being a Person of Character by Andy Stanley. He lists in there documents over documents of Western society was based on the 10 Commandments and or other teachings in the Bible.
Now,
It's
Brian,
well
I'm gonna stop you.
documented.
We're running out of time. I'm going to stop you there. I think here's the thing is, I agree with your premise that the people that are telling you to be tolerant are now phenomenally intolerant in this issue. And if they were intellectually honest, they would allow the posting of the 10 Commandments and any of the religious documents inside the school. You're absolutely right. They are completely being hypocritical on this one. And it's a little difficult. The question I've got for you is, what do you think the impact on the kids is going to be? Because that was my question with Nicole and Jeff. Tell me about, what do you think the positive impact seeing the 10 Commandments every day is for those kids?
Guidelines to live a better life. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't commit adultery. Those are all things they're not being taught in school.
Yeah, could we do it with the Beatitudes, though? Are there other places in the book that we could do the same thing?
Yeah. Oh, well, there are. But then, of course, you can't introduce in 1964, they took the Bible out of school. In 65, they took prayer out of school.
That's a good point.
Brian,
don't wanna cut
great
you off,
point.
but
We're
thank
just
you.
out of
You're absolutely
time.
right, man.
Fantastic call. When we come back, all right, we're out of time with the Jeff and Bill Show. 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 6th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. Brought in what are they called? A ringer. Yes, brought in a ringer today to take on Bill, and they had a great conversation. Nicole Hunt joining us in the last hour to discuss the 10 Commandments, whether or not they should be on the walls in our schools, because Louisiana is pushing a law mandating it.
She is such a lovely person.
She's very smart.
You did a great job, my friend. Not only is she just absolutely delightful, but she's incredibly smart. High five.
Well,
Nicely
I'm attracted
done.
to her big brain.
I don't know. It's one of those things that I always have people ask me, how did you fool your wife into marrying you? I'm like, I have no idea. And the fact that this entire charade has gone on for this long is wonderful. So, yes.
Well, the funny thing was, so she's brains and beauty. She was a beauty queen growing up, Miss Hemet, California.
Hey.
But also interned in the White House, all that stuff. But this is how I got her. You want to know how I did?
Does it involve either chloroform or a taser?
I was the only guy ever in her life dating her that at one point just went, meh.
Ah, nice. That's good.
And decided to go date some other girls, and she didn't like that.
That's nice, because
little reverse psychology.
Very, very smart. The idea of, again, you have that phrase about, if you love something, let it free, and if it loves you, it will return. If you don't, you then hunt it down and kill it and teach it a lesson.
Well, the funny thing was, when we were in college, we dated in college, and she was just the same personality. I picked her up and I go, well, what do you want to do with your life? She's like, I'm going to major in political science. I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. I'm going to work on Capitol Hill. I'm going to go to law school, and I'm going to run for U.S. Senate from California.
Wow.
As an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, she said that. Dude, I couldn't think in 2-week increments when I was in college.
Yeah.
Right? What am I going to do today? I don't know. Hang out with the boys and play some video games.
Yeah.
So we were so far off.
Yeah.
I had to grow up. The truth was, it took me about 6 years to grow up. And then I went back and was like, hey, what's up?
That's wonderful. Yeah, my wife and I also met in college at the one place you're never supposed to meet, a party. Never supposed to meet someone. And the odd
How you doing?
Yeah. The odd part was one of my wife's best friends at the time. Her mom is from Brazil, and so she's mixed and stunning, really, really pretty. Two of my friends had, calling them crushes seems to downplay what they were feeling. They were bordering on stalker. I mean, they were obsessed with this girl, and they're like, you got to meet her, got to meet her, got to meet her, got to meet her. Okay, fine. And we're gonna go to a party. We're in the basement, my friend's house, and we're playing pool. And then all of a sudden you hear it, and I swear to God, it turns to me, she's here. I'm like, dude, settle down. No, it's okay, fine, whatever. And I remember these two women coming down the stairs. The first one is the Brazilian. And I'm like, gosh, she's pretty. The second person that came down the stairs took my breath away. I'm like, who's that? That's it.
Fantastic.
It sold me. And I manipulated myself that night. Shamelessly, in order to ride in the same car she was riding in order to get to the party, because now I'm kind of connected, because now you can't leave me at the party alone. Yeah. And there were all sorts of things I did that night. And
I feel like there were like doves, and she descended down the staircase.
In my mind, absolutely. Yes. That is exactly what happened. I'm like, who is this angel, and where has she come from? And so I pursued her very, very well. And then the funny part is it was it was our first date. Yes, second date actually. That changed the idea that she might be different than everybody else, because it was our second date, and my parents are both working all the time, and my brother is 9 years younger than me, and it's either my mom or my dad gets stuck at work longer. So I'm like, listen, we can still go out. We're just going to go to dinner, but we're going to have to bring along my brother. Is that cool? Without missing a beat? Sure, absolutely.
That's cool.
Okay, we go to dinner. By the time at the end of dinner, he is sitting on her lap and they're goofing around together. And I looked at that and went,
dude, marriage material.
Yeah,
man.
That's exactly what I thought. I said, there's something unique here, something different. And I couldn't let it go. I could not let it go.
It sounds like what you saw in her was her potential at that point of being a mother. right?
Yep. And I am still super curious what the hell she's on me. No idea. Because there was nothing about what I was doing at that time to go, yes, that's the guy I would have spent the rest of my life with. It'd have been like, ooh, that's even a sketchy weekend. Yeah. So, yeah.
Gabe giving us a good text here. We talked about this at the very beginning of the show, though, but a good reminder, and we should at the top of every hour. Shout out to all the individuals who took part of Operation Overlord D-Day 80 years ago today. Gabe, you're exactly right. Thank you
exactly right.
Should bring that up at the top of every hour.
Yeah. People that have more spine, more commitment than I ever could. I'm just not wired that way. You know, I'll go to war with you, but that and what they were asked to do, it boggles my mind, and I can't believe they did it. And they are heroes on a level of something I'll never achieve. I'll never be that good, ever. So it's incredible. It's incredible.
Just a totally different generation. Greatest generation.
Easily.
Coming up here in just a second, we're talking with Christine Yeargin. She's a host of Speak Out, a Students for Life podcast. New article out. Research confirms about 96% of abortions are just for birth control. 0.4% are for rape. Just change your opinion on whether or not we should be restricting abortion in this country. We're going to want to get your calls and texts on this, but let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. So let me get this straight. Jeff played Hard to Get and Billy played Hard to Get Away from Me.
And it worked right.
And it worked for
both of us.
That's
Dude,
awesome.
I don't know how people date these days with the apps and stuff. And
I don't. It's so difficult.
I feel like you just got to go to church and be like, all right, who's around?
I agree. That is the place to go. That is the answer. I agree with you.
Well, it could be like, my friends in college where it was like, well, let's see, bars closing in 30 minutes. Who's not sitting with someone right now? Not saying it was good choices. I'm just saying those are their choices.
Wow, that happened with you guys too. Huh?
Yes, it did.
Amazing.
It absolutely had buddies who were like, Jeff, nope. They stepped in.
That's awesome. 64 and sunny in Denver. Expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well trained, well equipped, and battle hardened. He will fight savages. The free men of the world are marching together to victory.
General Eisenhower, I like Ike. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day. President Biden joining the president of France to commemorate the anniversary. U.S. and allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy on France's northern coast on June 6th, 1944, to battle and defeat the Nazis. Biden is taking this opportunity to draw comparisons between the allied fight in World War II to the war Ukraine faces against Russia.
Ukraine has been invaded by a tyrant bent on domination. Ukrainians are fighting with extraordinary courage, suffering great losses, but never backing down.
There will be plenty of well-deserved pushback on that. How about talking about the new Nazis, the Islamo-Nazis? No, instead, he's praising NATO in the speech. He's trying to, I guess, escalate the situation in Ukraine. Russian President Putin says he would consider deploying conventional missiles within striking distance of the U.S. and Europe if they let Ukraine use Western weapons to strike Russian territory. Putin called it a serious escalation and said it was wrong to assume that Russia would never use nuclear weapons. Former President Trump calling on Israel to finish the job in its war against Hamas, and said Israel doesn't have the backing of Congress and that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has become like a Palestinian. Trump said lawfare is one of the many things crushing our country today.
It is weaponization of the election. And we're talking about, I think, the most important election in the history of our country. This will go down, I believe, as the most important election in the history of our country. We can't have this stuff go on because you know what? When Biden goes out, everyone says bye-bye, and then he gets indicted 2 days later and they go after him. The country doesn't want that.
Boy, that's the truth. Nicole Hunt, From Focus on the Family on with Jeff and Bill last hour, she wrote an article in Newsweek about Louisiana schools possibly having the 10 Commandments back on the walls of public schools. And Hunt says this is a good thing.
I think it's educational. Like I said, it's part of our legal and Western cultural heritage. It's something, if you look back to framers of the Constitution, if you look back to original laws and statutes that were passed in the colonial era, you'll see that actually 12 out of these 13 original colonies instituted the entire 10 Commandments into their state law.
Easily the most intelligent Hunt to ever don the airways at KNUS. Wow, man, she was incredible.
Thank you.
That was awesome. She needs to be on here at least once a week.
She needs to run for president.
Yes, I agree. I'll vote for her. Bill Hanslick introduced me to John Perosi, JP, about 10 years ago. JP used to tell me incredible stories. He passed away a few years ago. He was a 19-year-old paratrooper who landed in Santa Maria Glise a few hours before the troops invaded Omaha Beach. He took a bullet that was lodged near his heart, and it stayed there his entire life, jumped out of planes 3 more times, and fought in the Battle of the Bulge after D-Day.
So you're still walking around with a German bullet in you?
Yeah,
And you're how old now, John?
94 years old.
Some things Germans make is just keep right on running.
They can't. Nah.
He was awesome. He would say, they can't put me down. Nah. Hey, man, that dude, man, I miss him. JP, John Perosi, you can check him out on YouTube. You can check that whole video and story out with Oliver North. Rocks lose to the Reds 12-7. They're at St. Louis tonight, 5:45 first pitch. 60 in Erie, 61 in Highlands Ranch, and 64 in Denver.
Blake, before we go to the weather here real quick, do you know how many veterans we've got left in this country? Out of the 16.4 million Americans who served, we're down to 119,000.
Wow.
Ouch.
Is that right?
That's it.
Well, they've got to be, based on
119.
timing, they've got to be in their 90s by now.
At least
80,
80.
because it's 80 plus 18.
Yeah.
So the late 90s.
Late
minimum.
90s.
Amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
it goes so quick, doesn't it?
you know what's really going to stink
goodness.
is not having, because I love the fact that Blake's been playing John's audio throughout the morning. We are going to lose that voice. It's not going to
Yes.
be the same. You're not going to have those people that can tell the stories about why they made the sacrifice and what it means. And the idea that you played the audio earlier today, Blake, where John talks about it's the people with the white crosses. They're the heroes, not me who survived.
Absolutely.
It's the people there that we left behind. They're the real heroes.
No
Man.
question. And it's so important that we tell our kids about this. Fortunately, I was able to introduce my boys to JP about, I don't know, it was about maybe 8-9 years ago. So, and they still remember JP. So last night, he used to give out candy at Gold Crown Fieldhouse. Bill Hanslick would set it up. And my oldest boy, to this day, still says, "Hey, Dad, it's, tomorrow's June 6th. JP, thinking about JP. They loved him. What a personality." But he told the stories and he kept it alive. And you're right, Billy. That's the sad part. So we have to continue telling people the story and make sure they understand the history behind it. Jeff and Bill continue on Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a sunny, warm, dry day for Denver. Will be mid to upper 80s. Lots of sun, less wind. Lows tonight, low to mid 60s. Partly cloudy on Friday, a warm one in the low to mid 90s. Thunderstorms, a few, will develop by the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit cooler for the weekend, and be ready for afternoon thunderstorms. The weekend will bring late day showers and thunderstorms, and that trend will continue into Monday and Tuesday. Highs near 80 Saturday, 70 Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. You know, for years we've been asking and trying to figure out down at the Colorado State Capitol, why are women getting abortions? If we don't like them as a culture, if we don't want people going through this, can we understand why? Is there sex trafficking taking place? Is there rape taking place and abuse? Is it for the health of the mother? Is it for because the baby is terminal and is not going to live? Why? We're trying to have a public policy conversation as to why this act takes place. And the Democrats at the state capitol, every time someone like Stephanie Luck tries to introduce a bill down there, they shut it down. We're not going to even survey. We're not going to talk about this. So lifenews.com reporting recently that to the best of their ability, in some states that will allow this, they're finding that research confirms about 95.9% of abortions are birth control, just 0.4% for rape. After the Supreme Court ruling in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, states across the country have enacted laws that limit abortion. Frequently, these state laws make exceptions for abortions for certain reasons, such as rape and incest, risk to the mother's life or health, or fetal abnormality. Assessing the number of abortions performed for various reasons can be challenging due to poor quality of U.S. abortion data resulting from inconsistent reporting requirements. Periodic surveys by pro-abortion organizations have been done on women visiting abortion centers. However, these surveys do not provide a detailed look at abortion specifically performed for common legal exceptions. For this report, Life News compiled publicly available data from 8 states that collected and reported 2021 data on women's health reasons for choosing abortions. They selected the data from 2021, the year before Dobbs was decided, because many of these states limited abortion after Dobbs. The 8 states accounted for approximately 123,000 abortions in 2021, which would have been about 13% of the U.S. total in 2020. Some of these states allowed women to report multiple reasons for an abortion or to write a particular reason, while others asked women to select the top reason or choose from a predetermined list. Overall, common exceptions to abortion limits are estimated to account for less than 5% of all abortions. To provide some commentary on this is Christine Yeargin. She's the host of Speak Out, a Students for Life podcast. Christine, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So what are your thoughts on this? 96% of abortions are for birth control.
To me, it's unsurprising. I live and work in this world. I work with these women all the time. Typically what we see is that it's the biggest reason is financial. They are scared that they're not going to be able to pay their rent, or to put groceries on the dinner on the table, or to be able to finish school, or something along those lines. It's not for the reasons that you typically hear. You know, what about the cases of rape, or what about life of the mother? I mean, that's a very emotional argument that gets thrown at you the majority of the time, when it really is in the minority of reasons that women are choosing abortion. We see more and more that they are for reasons of convenience, like finances, or, you know, maybe not having a partner, or in some cases not even knowing who the dad is, because we have become such an over-sexualized society, and women are sleeping around with this, you know, sexual liberation mindset. So it's unsurprising to me that the data is showing what we are seeing in real time with women on the ground that we're trying to love and help and support.
Is this an argument in your case? And for me, it is that there needs to be a better understanding of this. So in one way, you get this argument that, well, this is just a personal decision. Why does it matter that we even know why people are getting abortions? But I think most Americans don't like abortion, right? It doesn't feel right. Even if you're pro-choice, it doesn't feel right that this takes place. And so we'd obviously want to limit it. I think that there's an actual real small percentage of people that are like, shout your abortion. You know, you kind of see them on the radical left. This is a good thing. I've had 45 abortions. I saw that the other day on social. I had 45 abortions. Someone said they claimed to have 45 abortions.
How does that person still have a uterus?
I don't know.
So many
but I mean, it's so you get some of those wacko leftists that are that way. But I think most people go, well, if this thing's happening, we obviously don't want it happening. Shouldn't we have better research into reasons why this is happening?
Absolutely. I mean, and we do have the research. It's just connecting with these women and providing them the resources. But I'll tell you what I do in my own spare time, and do not make any money off of this whatsoever, but I rally my base and my followers and my listeners to help and love and support these women. And when I listen to the people who are the shout your abortion people, or who maybe come at it from the rare, the safe, legal, and rare, which used to be what they touted, and some still do, I will say. But when you actually get down to the nitty gritty of what it is, it's a lot of work to support these women. It's a lot of effort, genuinely. When you're talking to a woman who doesn't know how she's going to provide, it's much easier to tell her to go get an abortion. And these people who are safe, legal, and rare, or who are pro-abortion and shouting their abortion, when they combat me or talk to me about this, when it comes to what a woman needs in these instances, and I ask them, hey, do you want to help us help her? Because finances are the reason that she wants to have an abortion. She doesn't want to do this. She feels like she's backed into a corner and she doesn't have any other option. Do you want to help us help her? They say no. They disappear, or they block me, and they don't want to talk about it, because it's much easier to say, hey, there's an abortion clinic down the street, than to actually put in your own effort, your own finances, your own time, your own emotions, and invest in this woman and actually help her. So to me, yes, we need to know why these things are happening, because then we can get to the bottom of it. And when we find out that a lot of it is for reasons of convenience, and the most for reasons of financial need, that's such an easy thing to fix. I mean, how awful
is it though? And this is a critique I have of the church. And you just mentioned, people don't want to financially help somebody. On the other side, they'll go, well, just go get an abortion. I think there's a lot on the church side that'll just go, well, we're pro-life. We stand. Okay, well, we need to financially provide for these single moms or moms in a relationship that are poor, and they want to get an abortion for financial reasons. And the church is like, well, about Sanctity of Life Day, or let's go register for pro-life politicians, but they won't actually step up. Are you equally frustrated with the churches on this?
Absolutely. I say it's an easy fix. That doesn't mean that everybody's doing it, right? I mean, it's an easy fix to be able to rally these people. And there are so many people who want to do this. When I tell you that I do these baby showers and we provide everything tangible that a woman needs into maybe the baby being 1-2 years old, because no woman wants to be dependent on somebody forever. So the goal is obviously to get someone dependent on themselves, or independent, excuse me. And yes, do we need more bold pastors? Absolutely. Do we need more people stepping up? But when you have these people who are screaming in your face, I've had 45 abortions, and these almost demonic, scary type things, it can be very intimidating, and you become a lot of people get canceled when they talk about this issue. It is one of the most controversial topics to talk about, which is why we need to be talking about it, why we need more bold pastors. But I think a lot of pastors don't necessarily know how to talk about it in some way, shape, or form, and they need to be making that effort to educate themselves, because yes, we should be pro-life as Christians, but also we know that there's probably women in the congregation who have had abortions, and you want to be sensitive to that. You don't want to, berate them over the head about it, and you want to be cognizant. So I do think that more pastors need to stand up. More people in the church need to be calling on their pastors to talk about this. It is equally a human rights issue, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on.
So and we're talking with Christine Yeargin, she's the host of Speak Out, a Students for Life podcast. She's also the founder of Be Their Village, which supports women contemplating an abortion by providing material resources for them. Do you think that conservatives should be supporting government programs if to care for a woman facing a crisis pregnancy? If a vast majority of the reasons why people get abortions is primarily financial, it just costs a lot of money to raise a child. Do you think social conservatives should be supporting government programs to provide for those women?
Personally, I think the government, when they get involved in anything, they mess it up. But you see situations where things can be incentivized, and we don't want that either, right? From my own beliefs, it is when you're in a situation like this, it should be family who helps you. And if you don't have family who's there to help you, then you can reach out to your local church to help you. And that's where we should be having our pastors and our congregation and church members stepping up all across the country. And then beyond that, then there's your community, and we have pregnancy resource centers and all of these things. So do I think that the government is the end all be all? We're going to fix everything? No. Anytime they stick their nose into something, it gets messed up, and then they pretend to provide the solution for it. But I think that we as people need to be caring about these women and being there for them and telling them about the sanctity of life. All life is valuable, not just mine, not just yours, not just the planned, but the unplanned as well. And I think that we need to be stepping up in a way that the government doesn't actually need to step in.
I'm okay with the government stepping in this space because if we were in a culture that said you're facing an unplanned pregnancy, and we value the life so much, there's infinite value in that life that the government's willing to step in and help provide for you. It wouldn't bother me that much if that's where our government's. Obviously, I'd like civil society to provide a bulk of that care and families. And look, you faced an unplanned pregnancy. Your parents stepped in to help you. If my kids did that, we'd step in because that life is incredibly valuable. We'll do whatever it takes. And if there's no churches around, and if there is no family around, if the government stepped in, I don't think it would be that bad. What say you, Kristen?
Well, if we're supporting Planned Parenthood or we're supporting moms, I mean, yes, I would much rather my taxpayer dollars go to supporting these women and supporting their families within reason of not incentivizing things and making sure that it actually is going to where it needs to go and not going into some, administration and then it never reaches the actual women.
Christine Yeargin, as I mentioned, you had an unplanned pregnancy. You chose your life. You had an unplanned pregnancy with a very high profile person, a member of the NFL, and you had a tremendous amount of pressure on you to get an abortion from that whole culture that exists there. But what does it say about the morality of our country right now when 96% of the abortions that are taking place in our country has killed 60 million innocent lives? What is the moral responsibility of a woman to not seek an abortion purely electively, purely for convenience sake? And if 96% of the abortions are that way, because as you pointed out, they start out a lot. Like you go down and argue at the state capitol, it's, well, I had radical health issues, and if I wasn't able to get an abortion, I was going to die. Those are the stories you hear down at the state capitol. You're like, wow, gosh, well, I clearly don't want the woman to die in this situation. Ergo, we're going to jump and allow totally unrestricted abortion for whatever reason, even up to 9 months. And we come to find out that the surveys show that 96% of those abortions are elective. What does that say about the moral?
Can we talk about that? I would love to talk about the moral aspect, but when it comes to the medical aspect, and there is no pro-life law, by the way, that does not allow for a life of the mother exception. I mean, there is none. We see headlines that are saying, doctors are not performing abortions because of pro-life laws. Well, either they are unable to read a law, or it's just malpractice, because there's not a single pro-life law that does not allow for life of the mother. But when it comes to life of the mother, I would like to know a condition that requires abortion to actually save the life of the mother. Can you or anyone name one?
No.
Yeah, there would be some entropic pregnancies would be there. There could be some as far as development into the fetus inside of the uterus that can cause some harmful sepsis types infections to the mother. There are some cases in which it can be that way. Yeah, there are a few. Yeah.
So I think you meant ectopic pregnancy,
yeah,
which
sorry, I misspoke. You're right.
Procedure. Yeah. The procedure for that is actually not an abortion. It is something else. However, when it comes to these conditions, sometimes the maternal fetal separation is needed. That is absolutely true. But in what case or what medical condition do you have to kill the fetus prior to removing the baby to save the mother? None. That's what an abortion is. It kills the baby prior to removal. Yes, you do have to remove a baby from their mother's womb if the mother's blood pressure is skyrocketing. You don't have to kill that baby prior to removing them. You treat them like a patient and you give them that medical care. And in the event, let's note that most of the situations where these life-threatening illnesses are happening are in the third trimester. They're when the life of the mother, when those are being threatened or when her life is being threatened, typically the baby is at a viable age where it can potentially survive with in the NICU, and they're going to give it treatment and whatnot. So when we look at these situations and people say that we have to kill this baby to save the mother, no, you don't. You have to remove the baby from the mother sometimes, but you treat that baby as a patient. And in very rare cases, is the baby too young to survive? Maybe 17 weeks, and medicine and science hasn't gotten there yet. We pray and hope that it does one day because it continues to get lower and lower, the viable age, which is fantastic. But maybe a baby is 17 weeks. And in those instances, you give perinatal palliative care, which makes these babies comfortable so that they can pass with dignity. You're not going in and dismembering the baby where they feel every single aspect of the abortion.
And Christina, this was one of the great, bizarre moments of my life where I remember sitting there because our daughter was born at 27 weeks. She weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces. She was the size of my hand. And I'm watching the surgeons desperately try to save my wife's life and the baby's life. And it was one of the most amazing coordinated effort among about a dozen people to work and to care for Nicole, who had preeclampsia and her vital organs were shutting down. And then what I can only describe as like a SEAL Team 6 highly trained operation to save Taylor's life, where you had a doctor or a nurse with a blanket ready to go when they were performing an emergency C-section on Nicole, grabbing my daughter, 27 weeks, 1 pound, 9 ounces, still in the second trimester, whisking her away into an incubator, intubating her, warming her, getting her ready. And then we spent 94 days in the hospital growing her until she was fine. And I'm sitting there watching this amazing coordinated effort to protect life, knowing that within 2 miles away from here, they were same baby, same size, killing the baby and throwing it in the trash in an abortion clinic. And I'm like, how do we live in this culture? This is how do you have that disparity that takes place in our culture where we work so hard to protect life in one situation, and the other exact same situation, you just throw it in the trash, all because one person gave value to it? That's just bizarre to me.
It is. It's completely bizarre. And we see this more and more where, life has been devalued, and we see comprehensive sex education taking over these schools and telling our children not what a baby looks like, not the basic biology, but we see children being told, practicing sex, safe sex, which there is no such thing as safe sex when you're 13, 14 years old. But this is how you get an abortion. And they tell you how to go to the abortion clinic, or they tell you how to get abortion pills behind your parents' back. And the consistent devaluation of life. And we're seeing that in society. We're seeing people who have baby showers call it a baby, and people who don't want it call it a fetus. In what world are these two different things? They're not. They're the same thing.
Now, Christine Yeargin, host of Speak Out Students for Life, joining Jeff and Bill. I have a question for you about either an abortion ban inside of Colorado or nationally. Earlier, you said that we're seeing 95% of these abortions or more being elective, and the main focus or reason behind it is financial. If we put an abortion ban in Colorado or nationally, does it solve that problem and reason why the women are seeking abortions?
The reason why? Of course not. It doesn't solve it. Abortion doesn't solve it either.
Okay. Now the question I've got, though, is if we're going to stop them from having an abortion and we know what the motivators are, why are we then assuming they will not seek an abortion through other means?
Well, when we ban rape, why are we assuming that people are not going to just go rape somebody anyway? I mean, things are going to happen.
That's a bad analogy, because the rape is a crime of violence versus the idea of what we're talking about as far as the abortion ban.
Abortion
per se.
dismembers a baby. It is a crime of violence.
Not if
There
we
is-
get it.
there's no way to call.
I disagree, because again, and you know this, the majority of the abortions that occur in our country are medical. They are done through pills. It is not at a time in which the baby is being ripped apart by a machine. That is not correct. That's not the standard abortion procedure that is happening in America right now. But my issue
Well, I
is,
would argue starving the baby of nutrients is also violent, because that's what an abortion pill does. It starves the nutrients from the baby so that it cannot survive, and the second pill expels it from the mother's body.
and the mother's
You can
body.
call it what you want.
I understand that, but the mother's body expels fertilized eggs on a regular basis. In fact, most fertilized eggs are expelled from the mother's body naturally. That happens. That's how biology works. But the question I have is the idea that we seem to believe. Hang on, wait, Kirsten. That we seem to believe that this abortion ban, if we just tell people no, you can't do it, we make it illegal, that it solves the reasons they're seeking. I don't think it does. You very eloquently outlined the idea of the support that is needed for these women to make the right choices. But instead, as Jeff pointed out and you pointed out, instead of us going ahead and making the choices as a society to support the woman, what do? We tell her, no, can't do it. You're not helping her make the right choice. I think you and I are actually closer than it sounds like on the air, because I think the problem we have is we're not supporting these new mothers in the early stages of life. And because of that, we see the result of them going and seeking abortions based on, and as you pointed out, most often financial reasons. If we could support them, they don't have to make that choice. And the problem I have is, instead of trying to solve the reason they're having the abortions, we're just telling them no. It's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to stop the abortions. It doesn't get us to the goal that we want. It doesn't, at the core, support life.
Well, a couple things that I would say. First of all, you say that there are, fertilized eggs that a mother releases often. There's something totally different in things that happen naturally and things that happen intentionally and forcefully. I mean, people die in their sleep every day. That's a little bit different than somebody coming to stab you to death. They're not the same. One is natural and one is a violent act. With that said, I would say that, yes, we absolutely need to support women, but you absolutely do ban things that are wrong, right? We ban murder. We do not allow murder. We outlaw rape. You cannot just go into a bank and rob a bank because you want to. Is that going to solve the issue? Absolutely not. Do we say, well, do we need to know why people are murdering people on the streets? We need to know their reason. That doesn't change anything. You still outlaw it, right? You outlaw something that ends life.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there, and then you can proceed to find out how we can help better support these women, because that is just what we should be doing as humans anyway. But we have to protect life first. And if we don't protect life, how are we going to protect the women who are out here needing help? If we cannot protect the most vulnerable and innocent among us, how are we going to care for the other people?
Yep. And unfortunately, contained there inside of your argument is the exact reason why an abortion ban will fail, is specifically because you're talking about protecting life. And Jeff and I have these conversations all the time. While the three of us agree about life based on our shared religion, there are other religions and other individuals that disagree. Judaism disagrees on when life starts, and there is a deep, deep debate inside of Islam as far as when life starts. And so what the issue is when we decide as a group, well, we're deciding this is a life, when there are other people out there that disagree, we can't get to the goal that we want. Where we could get to the goal that we want, having fewer abortions, possibly zero, if we just would support the mother and the early life of the child. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter at that point when you think that life starts. Doesn't matter, because you can support it at the end. This is basically, I just see everybody that is going around being pro-life, you're Don Quixote. You're charging at windmills that aren't going to fix the problem, is the reason behind why we're having the abortions. Nobody wants to have these conversations.
I think it's dishonest to say that an abortion ban would not decrease abortions. It absolutely will. When you outlaw things,
I didn't say decrease. I just said didn't fix. I said didn't fix. It's not going to fix the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. And it doesn't solve the reason people are having abortions. They're still going to have them. Same thing. Just by telling someone no, we know in our society doesn't work.
So should we legalize murder because outlawing murder doesn't solve the fact that there are still going to be murders?
The question would be, based on the murder rule, what are you trying to prevent? And does it accomplish the goal? And so what it allows us to do is prosecute people that have decided to do this.
Outlawing murders, does outlawing murders solve the issue of murder?
How many,
yes or no?
How many murderers do you believe that committed the act thought they were going to get caught and punished? What's the percentage?
I don't think that's relevant to
yes,
the
it
issue.
is. No, it is. No, it is. It is because I understand the idea of deterrent inside of the law. But the funny thing is, inside of the criminal justice system, almost none of those criminals thought they were going to get caught. So the idea that you're telling someone you can't have an abortion and they're going to go, oh, I possibly can't. If they still have that financial motivator, if they still look at it as this could ruin my life, not because I hate kids, but because of the burden that it places on me. You think they're not going to make the choice to go outside the system? Of course they are. That's exactly what you're motivating them to do. That's the problem with the solution of the ban. Help the women. The ban is claimed to be about helping the women. And at the core, it doesn't.
I don't know why it's either or.
It's not. It's both and. You ban it and you help the women. It's not either or, because helping the women is not going to solve the issue entirely either. Nothing is. We're human people. We are a flawed people. There are always going to be people in dire circumstances who take extreme measures. There's going to be people who commit suicide. There's going to be people who throw themselves down the stairs. I mean, that is just the nature of human beings. That is the nature of having mental health issues in this country. We're going to see people who are going to do these things, and a law is not necessarily going to stop every single one of them. Does that mean we shouldn't outlaw things that are morally wrong, that are a human rights issue? I mean, I think we should. We should be protecting life because that is what is the most valuable. And without the right to life, none of our other rights matter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, and I would say that you're correct. If I saw anything on the pro-life side or even on the pro-abortion side in which they were trying to support the woman, if it was a two-pronged thing, we could, but we can't.
Bill,
we never want to do it.
let me tell you.
The life side trying to support the women that you're not paying attention.
No, you're not. I'm sorry. There are portions, but you're not advocating for
Bill,
government rules. You're not changing healthcare.
That's exactly what Christine does.
In child advocacy.
So that's exactly what Christine Yeargin does with Be Their Village. She's taking action to support, empower, and love women through pregnancy and into motherhood by providing material resources for them.
And I think she's doing it right.
Christine Yeargin, host of the Speak Out podcast with Students for Life. Thanks so much for being on the show and engaging with Bill. I'm not in the heavy hitters today. I got Nicole and Christine. Oh, that was
great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Her website, ChristineYeargin.com. Her last name spelled YearGin.com. ChristineYeargin.com with Be Their Village and Speak Out podcast. All right. Give us a call and let us know what you think about this conversation. We're talking about an article. Research confirms 96% of abortions are birth control, just 0.4% for rape. Does that change your perspective on this? Should we limit it using abortion as birth control? Is that right? Is that morally right? Especially as it gets later into the pregnancy. Does that change your perspective? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Christine Yeargin. Article out from lifenews.com. Research confirms about 96% of abortions are killing babies as birth control. Just 0.4% actually for rape, 2.2% for physical health concerns, 0.3% for the risk to the women's life or major bodily function, 1.2% for abnormality in the unborn baby.
Yeah, it's the show in which Jeff makes it very hard on Bill. Those are the subjects and topics, and such good guests. It was fantastic. The conversation with Christine is fantastic. I agree with her on so many levels and so many things. And I think that the strange thing is, Jeff, that you, she, and I in a room for 30 minutes could solve this problem.
Well, and I pressed her on that. I would be okay with the government stepping in and saying that human life is so valuable that we're willing to provide it for you if your family or civic society is not willing to.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Lynn. Castle Rock, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Lynn.
Hi, good morning. The abortion question makes me crazy. So my opinion is that if you're going to outlaw abortion or require a woman to have that baby in any way, then all boys at age 12 need to be DNA tested and that put on file. And if a girl gets pregnant and they pull up the DNA and or have it when the baby's born, or if she's required to not have an abortion and have the child, the boy's family or the boy, if he's over 18 or over 21, whichever, is required to support that child for the next 18 to 20 years.
Why do you have to do mandatory DNA testing on all boys? I mean, because
all boys can get girls pregnant.
Yeah, but you kind of made the argument that, like, if they get, as if it's just like happens, like, oh wow, I'm pregnant today. Don't you know who she would have gotten pregnant from?
Yeah, and they'll say no, it wasn't me.
Well, then you can DNA test at that point. That's what they do in paternity suits.
But don't they have to have a court order, and don't you have to go to court and spend money to get that DNA test?
Yeah, and that's a paternity suit, but I don't know where you got to the leap. We have to DNA test all boys.
I got a
Why
thing.
not?
I got a thing, Lynn. In fact, instead of DNA testing all boys, here's another solution that may
all
work.
Children.
May work better. Not the children. Do this. The father that doesn't want to take the responsibility for talking about the abortion, and he's advocating for it and doesn't want to be involved in the child's life. That's fine. At that point, state mandatory vasectomy. And 50% of your income in perpetuity goes to that child. That's it. Done. If you want to make the choice and you're not going to take responsibility for the choice, no more choices for you.
I'm not super opposed to that.
See?
I think dudes need to step up here a little bit. All right, Lynn, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time. We'll continue with this conversation in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Lots of great text messages on the Jeff and Bill show today. Text messages about fetal pain. When can a fetus feel pain? Some studies say as early as 24 weeks. Someone texted in as well, Darlene. I don't believe in abortion, but we should fix some of these mothers out there that collect welfare checks. And they have kids just to collect welfare checks. I'm not that. To me, the sheer amount of death that takes place in abortion versus someone collecting a welfare check because they had another baby, that doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah, for
We're
me,
at
it's
like
numbers.
60 million.
Yeah, the thing for me is if we went after those, welfare queens, the percentage of abortions that we'd stop, it's very small. It's going to be less than probably 8%, 9%.
I don't.
That's the problem. It doesn't get us
even
the
as
goal.
a social conservative.
Yeah.
Is Christina a medical doctor trained in obstetrics?
Obstetrics, yeah. But no more than I am, but she's done research. So she knows her stuff.
My niece had a high-risk pregnancy. She kept the child and gave birth to a healthy baby.
That's wonderful.
There you go. That's great. All right, we'll continue this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Nine a.m. in the Mile High City. That's a great intro because
before.
I feel like half the audience throws up a little bit in their mouth because of me, and about a half the audience throws up in their mouth because of you.
I tell all sorts of people you should not listen while you're eating. It's not going to be good. It's not a good thing.
People are like, what did Jeff just say?
Yeah, start choking on stuff. Exactly, and throwing up. Exactly.
Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 6th, and you've tuned in to 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center. Most of the time, pretty crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, the 80th anniversary of the storming of Normandy, D-Day.
Yeah.
Very powerful day. And Blake's going to play some audio from a close friend of his who was there present when all that happened.
My son was there with my in-laws a number of years ago, and they spent 2 days there, and it was actually on D-Day. So they arrived the day before, and they were able to spend D-Day. Yeah. And they left late in the day, but they were there for the ceremonies. Again, not one of the big anniversaries, but it really, really touched my son deep inside. It really changed him because it gave him an operational understanding of what they had to go through. He said, because you can look at things in books. It's like you go to the Sistine Chapel. You've seen the pictures. The seeing it in person is different.
Yep.
Except for the Mona Lisa, it gets a little tiny. But the other ones, you go and you go to the Grand Canyon. You've seen pictures all your life, but you stand there. That's different. And he said standing there absolutely was different. I wish that we could have a way for getting, all American students over there just on a trip to say, look at what we did. It would change a lot of things. And I think it would also encourage one of the things we're looking for is patriotism. Say, look, this is what we're capable of. Yeah.
And what it takes to stop evil.
Yep.
It takes your full life.
Yeah. And are you willing to take that baton and do the same? Protect, America. Yeah. It'd be great. But we can't have nice things.
We're going to debate flags, whether you're Samuel Alito or the Colorado Republican Party. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 68 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 90s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
General Eisenhower, it's the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and instead of just talking about the amazing stories of the young heroes who battled and defeated the Nazis after storming the beaches of Normandy on France's northern coast on June 6th, 1944, President Biden took some of the time to talk Ukraine and Russia.
And make no mistake, the autocrats of the world are watching closely to see what happens in Ukraine, to see if we let this illegal aggression go unchecked. We cannot let that happen.
Now, Russian President Putin says he would consider deploying conventional missiles within striking distance of the U.S. and Europe if they let Ukraine use Western weapons to strike Russian territory. Putin called it a serious escalation, and it's wrong to assume that Russia would never use nuclear weapons. Former President Trump says Israel needs to finish the job in its war against Hamas, and said Israel doesn't have the backing of Congress, and that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has been, he's become like a Palestinian, and he's Jewish. Trump on Fox News Channel last night and said that lawfare is one of the things that will destroy our country.
It is weaponization of the election, and we're talking about, I think, the most important election in the history of our country. This will go down, I believe, as the most important election in the history of our country. We can't have this stuff go on because you know what? When Biden goes out, everyone says bye-bye, and then he gets indicted 2 days later and they go after him. The country doesn't want that.
No, they don't. A kayaker is dead following an accident on the Arkansas River. It happened near Buena Vista. The man got caught in powerful rapids, fell into the water, and was unresponsive when he was pulled to shore. Officials say the river is running high due to snow melt. Well, I've been remembering the late, great John Perozzi this morning. He used to tell us incredible stories. We called him JP before he passed away a few years ago. He was a 19-year-old paratrooper who landed in San Maria Glise a few hours before troops invaded Omaha Beach in 1944. He took a bullet that was lodged near his heart. It was in there his entire life. He jumped out of planes 3 more times and fought in the Battle of the Bulge after D-Day. In his last trip to Normandy in his 90s, a young boy from the Netherlands comes up to tell him, thank you. The boy starts to cry, and JP was JP. It's a must-see.
The price of freedom is expensive. It takes lives, and it's up to you, a guy like you, to listen to mom and dad and be a good person. Okay? I love you. You're quite a boy. You are quite a boy.
Oh man, I think it's my favorite.
Wow.
It is incredible.
Is it dusty in here? There's smoke.
Right?
Oh, geez, it's gonna make you cry.
And that's the audio.
Wow.
I mean, keep in mind the video is just so well done. You can look it up. John Perozzi, Perozzi, John Perozzi with Oliver North. And I mean, I've probably seen it 1,000 times, and I cry every time I see it. I almost cried just listening to the audio for the 500th time this morning. So,
there's my grandfather was in World War II, and there's a song out there. There's a country music song now, when grandpas die. It's kind of things that I wish would never happen.
Oh, yeah.
And you just. Man, when you're a young man, you look up to those guys so much.
And I think the theme for me this morning is ingrates, just people just not grateful.
Yeah.
Not grateful for soldiers, people not grateful for what we have.
Right.
Illegal immigrants coming in from all parts of the world wanting to turn this into, their home countries. You know what? Assimilation is not a bad word. It's not a cuss word. Everyone needs to be patriotic. I love immigration, but you have to do it the right way. There are ingrates in the WNBA, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of women who think that they deserve to have the popularity that NBA players have. No, you don't. You don't deserve anything unless you earn it. It is what it is. There are just a lot of people who are not grateful in this day and age. And today we remember the soldiers who gave their lives and those who just gave everything for us. And they were only teenagers, most of them.
Yep.
So don't forget that, and have a great day in colorful Colorado. It is 66 in North Glen, 65 in Englewood, 68 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Thursday morning. Blake Olson News Talk, 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, a sunny, warm, dry day for Denver. Will be mid to upper 80s. Lots of sun. Less wind, lows tonight, low to mid-60s. Partly cloudy on Friday, a warm one in the low to mid-90s. Thunderstorms, a few, will develop by the afternoon and evening hours. A little bit cooler for the weekend, and be ready for afternoon thunderstorms. The weekend will bring late-day showers and thunderstorms, and that trend will continue into Monday and Tuesday. Highs near 80 Saturday, 70 Sunday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. By the way, Billy, I was looking up where that kayaker died up in Buena Vista, and one of the dumbest moments I ever made in my life was wrapped in that section.
Really? Tell me about it. Okay, what was
it's a class 5 section.
You don't get to make many dumb choices. That's normally my purview.
Well, you didn't know me when I was 20. So I was a river guide. What's that?
You and I would have had a lot more scars.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool
we actually
ones,
would have gotten along really well.
Exactly.
So I was a river guide for 5 summers up in Buena, and for a great company called Noah's Ark. And bought a boat, my own boat, and got some buddies together, and we would go raft the crazier sections when we weren't working.
Oh, wow.
So we get up really early and run the numbers, which was a class 4 section.
Oh, I know the numbers. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of fun. You got to be 16 to do that, or maybe even 18, but pretty serious. You're working for 10 miles.
Yeah.
Now, Browns Canyon, which is further down, is the quintessential classic family class 3 whitewater, right?
Yeah.
It's a little crazy. Everyone's going to get wet. There's a chance you might fall out.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're just going to be kind of cruising.
Yeah.
And it's a ton of fun when your kids are 10, 12 years old. But there's other sections that are just gnarly. And then there's a section called Pine Creek.
Oh.
Which is class 5. And me and a bunch of buddies took my boat up there, and we're going to go do Pine Creek. And it started with like 8 of us. And by the time we drove the 20 miles up, there's only 2 of us left.
Oh, no.
You know how it is among guys. It's like, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Then you start driving. It's like,
yeah. Or it's like, let's go. It's wait, how early are we going?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it got up to 2 of us, and we were dumb, and we did it. And I fell out in that section when that kayaker died, and I got rescued by some buddies that were kayaking too. But I got caught in a recirculating wave.
Oh yeah. So explain to us what that means and how it and what that does to you.
So think the Lowhead Dams is a recirculating wave, and it's just like a washing machine. You just get stuck in it. You don't get out.
Yeah. So
you're
in
just
spin cycle.
Flipped. You're in spin cycle, and you're constantly underwater, all that. And in Pine, I got stuck in that, and I did what you're never supposed to do as a guide or as a rafter ever. The worst thing you can do in the river ever.
I would have assumed that it had to do something with excreting bodily fluids, but I guess not.
No, that happens all the time.
I'm
That's
sure,
called an aqua deuce, dude.
That's fantastic. I love there's a name for it.
There is. It's so cold though, it's hard to pull out.
That's true.
Worst thing you can do in a river, stand up.
Oh, now why? Why is it the worst thing?
Because so you end up with what's called a foot entrapment.
Yeah.
So the bottom of the river is all rocks.
Yeah.
So imagine your foot goes in between 2 rocks, gets stuck. You have the power and pressure of hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that just push you down, and you end up on your face on the bottom of the river, and your foot's stuck there. So it's called a foot entrapment. Worst thing that can happen. Anyways, I wasn't coming out of the recirculating wave. I was just in a
and you can't break out of it because by the time you get up to the top, the next wave of water comes over you and it pushes down.
You right back down.
Yeah, so it rotates you. I've seen those, and I've gotten caught.
Put my feet on the bottom of the river and pushed up out of it and got out of it. It was the dumbest thing I've ever done. I almost got fired. The only reason I didn't get fired is because I used my own boat.
Oh,
if I had used anything that came from the company, it would have been
they would have said that you're putting
you're reckless, you're endangering other people.
And our name is on the boat saying you do stupid stuff.
Yep.
Oh wow!
So
now what I got to do is now you knew this was a really really rough section of rapids, and there's dos rafting people. Why did you choose to go with 2? Just because of looking at the weight and what that does based on the water, and what the water and rapids are going to be able to do to the boat based on there are only 2 of you, and also less paddles in the water, less control over the boat.
Less power, absolutely. But it's a highly technical part of the river, and it's called R2ing. So you have one guy on one side, one on the other, and you can actually maneuver quite quickly and easily if you have less weight in the boat. And you have to do, in that section, you have to do a straight 90-degree turn. And move. And if we were talented, yes. Yeah. But the funny thing was, bro, you've seen that movie Top Gun, right?
Oh,
you know the opening scene of Top Gun where those boys get dressed down.
Oh,
you're writing. Your body's writing checks. Your ego's writing checks. Your body can't cash.
Oh yeah.
That was literally word for word the 2 of us had to deal with the management of the rafting company I had to deal with.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, we got dressed down, but the funny thing was we did so bad bouncing through that rapid. Obviously, it's a dangerous rapid because a guy died in it the other day, but we had some guys come up in the rafting company like the next day, and we're like, if you 2 idiots can bounce through that, we want to give it a run. Can we borrow your boat? So they
that's wonderful.
And did it secretly, and I still to this day will not tell their names because I don't want them to get in trouble.
Good job,
either,
my friend.
We bounced through that. I've guided the Gully in West Virginia. I've guided all over the country. It's a ton of fun. It's my favorite sport. It's Father's Day. We'll go up and spend time on the Arkansas River. But you gotta treat it seriously. And the day you're not nervous, and that's why I said this was the dumbest thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah,
it was stupid for me to do it. You shouldn't do it. But the day you're not nervous getting on a rapid is the day you get out of there because it'll kill you. like it did this
interesting?
guy.
It's weird that you say that, because that's the advice that I've always given to my players when I've been coaching, both my kids and then, the surrogate kids that you're coaching is it's okay before the match to be nervous. If you ever get to a point where you're not nervous in front of the match, sit down. Sit down right now. And I walk through why. It's a lot of the same reasons, because you're going to make dumb mistakes. If you're not nervous and you're not focused on your performance, you are going to make stupid mistakes out there. So you always should be nervous. And that doesn't matter if you're standing up in front of the classroom, if you're doing the talent show, if you're doing the spelling bee, or you're just, trying to climb the ropes in gym, but they don't do that anymore. So, yeah.
Water's raging right now. So if you want to go rafting, this is what I always tell people. Second 2 weeks of June are the best. Water's high. Water's high. The air's out. It's nice and warm. Go up there and have some fun. Enjoy that part of Colorado. It's a great recreational activity. I want to talk to you about Colorado Christian University. Do you have a high school student considering their college plans? Are they ready to discover more about their gifts and talents? Do you hope to see them become part of the next generation of Christian leaders? Your student is invited to Colorado Christian University's Discovery Preview. This week-long event is completely free. Discovery Preview is designed for students who desire to seek God's purpose and calling in their lives. Students are immersed in the community, culture, and mission of CCU. Workshops focused on calling, career, and Christ-centered leadership help them explore their unique strengths and potential career options. CCU's Christ-centered community takes students on a Colorado adventure to experience the beauty of the Rocky Mountains. Eligible students can also qualify for a $1,250 annual scholarship for attending. Don't miss Discovery Preview this summer, June 17th through the 21st. The event is designed for juniors and seniors in high school, and again, it's absolutely free. To learn more, go to ccu.edu/discovery. That's ccu.edu/discovery. All right, let's go to the phones here. Dot, Lakewood, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Dot.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I almost drowned. We were on the Yampa River, and I was with my son-in-law and daughter, and it's the first time I'd ever been on it, and I was pretty brave to even try, because I'm not confident around water. But anyhow, we were going through an area that all of a sudden became more rough, and what it did, they said that I went into a hole.
Yep.
And I had a raft. I was hanging on both sides, and here the water is just going over me. And the thing that saved me was, other than God, was I let go of the one side. It just got too hard to hold.
Did you have your life jacket on?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, I had the life jacket on, and we went through a company, but I would not recommend that company. And it was a number. Well, it was.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, it was 25 years ago.
Yeah, those companies matter. Look, there's a lot of them that are just kind of hippies living in tents. Believe me.
Yeah.
But there are really great ones. The one I worked for took it very, very seriously. In fact, anytime anybody fell out of my boat, ever, I had to have a meeting with management to explain exactly what happened wrong and what I was going to do to change it differently. And they kept a log of every single swimmer you ever had. So, no, there's companies that trade. Noah's Ark was the company I was with. But, Dot, I appreciate the call. Thanks. I'm glad she lived through that.
Too.
That's scary stuff. All right. We want to do Terry or Joe, Billy?
Let's do Terry.
All right, Terry, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Joe, you'll be up next.
Yeah. Thanks for holding, Terry. What's up?
Well, so this is going back, and first I want to say I agree with everything y'all said about D-Day. It can't be lived up to. But going back to both the text exchange I was having with Jeff this morning and the guest that you had about the abortion thing, and you both brought up murder as an example of we outlaw murder, we can outlaw abortion. But there's important carve-outs for murder. You know, if I'm in self-defense or defending somebody else, I'm legally entitled to kill somebody. If I'm in war, I'm legally entitled to kill somebody. And you guys don't understand that there might be some situations where abortion is necessary. whether you like it or not.
Well, for the health of the mother, I would absolutely, for the physical health of the mother, and I have to say physical because the left sometimes will use, well, the mental health, I'm going to have to kill this child in order to protect my mental health. I don't agree with that. But the physical health, I would absolutely grant that exception.
Well, how about incest and rape? The physical health, incest, and rape are the three big that hold me up. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So would you be willing to support a ban on abortion if they had those exceptions?
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans would. I think a lot of Americans would want at least some timelines. And polls have showed this, that the abortion that happens right before a child is born, like even though it's not in a big amount, well, can we just please ban it? Because there's a doctor in Boulder named Dr. Hearn who does this, like 10 minutes before it's born. We're gonna kill
and I
it.
disagree with
That's
that.
Crazy, but yeah, no.
But on the flip side,
go ahead.
On the flip side, I live here in Texas, where they passed the total abortion ban. It was triggered by Roe v. Wade, right? And there was a lady whose doctor said her health was in danger, and at minimum, she was never going to be able to have another child if she didn't get an abortion, and they wouldn't let her, and that's morally wrong.
And those very specific cases, I think. One, I want some more clarity on it because from my understanding, what Christine said too, is that all these laws do provide exemptions for the physical health of the mother. So what happened
but they
there?
Didn't let it go in Texas,
right? Was it a doctor that didn't read it right, or what? How did that happen? If there were exceptions, because it seems like there is one.
An anti-abortion.
Yeah, Terry,
an anti-abortion group took her. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, I'm just going to jump in and say, I believe if the case that you're referring to, I believe what it was is the doctor looked at the law and went, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if based on this circumstance, they'll come back at me and say, no, you couldn't do that. And what his thought process was where he was angry was, he's not focused on trying to save the health of the mother. He's worried about saving his own skin, his own practice, the hospital. And he said, and that's just the wrong medical decision at that point. And so he pulled back because of the chances of someone doing it. But I'm sorry, continue. I'm going to go sit back here in the corner.
Well, I appreciate your insight. I agree with you more often than not. But it went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and they ruled against her. And that just shows a lot of people that it's not about caring for the family or the mother or the health or anything. It's just about promoting your own personal morality through state power. And if we're against that with the left, we should be against that with the right.
Terry, appreciate the call. I'll check into the specifics on that case. I just don't know. Terry's line will be open.
I like the fact that he's in Texas and he kind of had a different perspective of what was going on, because here, one of the most liberal abortion states in the entire country, and he's living under one of the most restrictive. Very interesting perspective.
Which state's better, you think? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Joe, I'm going to get to you in just a second. I want to talk to you all about roll them out shelves. We had Joyce and Brent over recently. First of all, these are wonderful people. You'd like to hang out with them anyways. You'd pay with them to just hang out. They're very kind. They love this country. We talked faith, family, freedom. Then we got to work. We measured all the shelves. They showed me how their shelves are better than builder grade, which we had some roll them out shelves that were builder grade. These are really nice, sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado, and they're guaranteed for life. And then they came in and installed them. So we've had them for about a week and a half now. Fantastic. This stuff is great. I love being able to pull out the entire shelf. We had so many cups of icing for brownies and cupcakes that we had forgot we had purchased, that at one point, because they were stuck in the back, that we pulled them out, and we probably had a year's supply because they just got buried back in there, and we forgot about it. We're like, wow, who needs 15 cans of chocolate icing? Apparently
diabetes.
Right? So now we actually know what's in our kitchen, and that's all because of roll them out shelves. Give them a call today at 303-475-9601 or visit rollemoutshelves.com. That's 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Let's go to Joe. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well this day.
I hope you are too.
I really have to agree with Billy's points on, valuing life in its whole as opposed to just during pregnancy. And that's one of big things I have with the pro-life movement. And an example of that, and even the previous callers mention of sort of state authority coming in and forcing these decisions upon people. Long time ago, this is probably 40 years ago, had an incident in our family where aunt and uncle were having a baby. Turns out the baby had a very bad case of spina bifida. They were considering abortion. They decided to bring the baby to term. And then the question became, what kind of medical support, do we give this baby? And a group of religious folks came in and basically tried to force and dictate the medical treatment of this baby to my aunt and uncle. And
what do you mean by that? They came in, they came to the hospital room?
It's a long time ago, and
yeah.
So some of the specifics I'm honestly wouldn't be able to say it's 100%.
But Joe, I do have a question for you. So if we created social safety net structures that encourage moms, and I said this on the call with Christine, if we believe in the infinite value of human life, which I do, right? Created by God. The fact, if you do the calculations that you're even here, you're looking at a mathematical improbability into the billions, right? The idea that that human life's been created, we're going to value it, and we'll provide the necessary government plans to be able to support them. If their families aren't willing to support them, if their religious communities not willing to support them, okay, government steps in. If we do that, if we create that in America, you'd be okay outlawing abortion?
I don't know if I'd be okay with it, because it's too much ambiguity for a simple yes or no for me. But I think, if the pro-life community stood behind that pro-life morality to ensure that those babies had, let's just say, the best first 5 years they possibly could in their life, imagine how much better their life would be. But we don't care enough as society. Your problem isn't worth my money. And I don't see that changing, because conservatives are conservatives when it comes to their money too. And I have never seen a big push from the pro-life movement to really provide that kind of support to young families and women. I mean, the preschool program that we started here in Colorado, I think is a great idea. It may be implemented in a terrible way, but that's how Democrats do things. But that's, at least they're committed to try and make sure that children get off to the best start they possibly can. And I don't see Republicans stepping up to do that.
Yeah, Joe, you make a really good point, and I appreciate the statement you made earlier about caring. And I can agree with you that many of the choices that we're making, for me, aren't necessarily about caring for the life. It's more about control. And one of the things, Mary from Wyoming, you've heard her, really good caller, great friend of the show, called off air and talked about one of the angles in here, poverty. And part of the idea when you're talking about the support from the government is, right now we know people in America would rather be born as a religious or even, skin tone minority, cultural minority, rather than be born poor. And Mary talked just very personally with me off the air about her experience being poor and growing up in the projects, and then early on in her life getting that unintended pregnancy, and how it continued the life of poverty and the cycle of poverty because the support systems around her weren't there. And later on, she had to make some difficult choices about what she was going to do when she got pregnant again. And she literally had to look at it. And she said that the hardest part is, at that point, she's looking at it, and it's not about her heart as far as what she wants to do to have that baby. It's about what she can afford. And she almost came to the idea that it was society telling her that she shouldn't be having this baby based on the structure, not based on the rule about whether or not we have an abortion. I appreciate your statement about the idea that, as a society, in some ways, we don't care. You're right. We don't.
Yeah, and we see these programs in a lot of other countries where they invest in mothers and early childhood, and yet the right seems to demonize them. It's socialism. It's indoctrination. It's this. It's that. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's an excuse for me to not have to pay for it.
Well, so I think what's really important that we're ignoring in this is the social not the personal responsibility level that conservatives bring into this. So, have you heard of the success sequence before?
No.
So the success sequence, AEI discovered this, is that if you don't have children out of wedlock, you finish high school, and you work full time in your 20s, right? So you don't have a child as a teenager. You work to finish high school, and you get a full-time job, or at least somebody in your family has a full-time job. 80 to 90% of the people that follow that sequence will not end up in poverty. So I understand that there's this like notion that women just kind of like get pregnant. We had one caller that talked about that, just okay, I'm pregnant. And I understand there's rape and incest and all those, but this study that we're talking about shows that 95+% of abortions are happening as elective, essentially birth control. Don't you think there's a call to personal responsibility, that the choice that was made was the choice to have sex there at that point?
Sure. And that's something that those women have to live with and decide for themselves. It's not for me or you to tell them what to do if they're, if they miss their period and decide at 6 weeks that they want to take a pill and make sure that they're not going to be pregnant. And that's probably where a lot of those 96% of those abortions happen. Many of those happen early on. And while I don't deny that these late-term abortions happen, I think most of the time they are extreme medical circumstances, and this idea that some woman decides at 8.5 months that I've gone this far, but I just changed my mind. It's contradictory to somebody carrying a baby that long. You wouldn't carry a baby that long unless you wanted to keep it. So that I think it comes across to me as sort of this ruse, scare tactic of, all these babies are being killed, the day they should be delivered. On the rare circumstance, I'm sure it happens. But there's no detailed information about those specific cases, and so I don't like the idea.
We tried to get him in the state of Colorado, and the Democrats blocked us on that. Joe, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time. I want to talk to you guys about advanced hair restoration. Look, the Jeff and Bill Show, named by Westward the top talk radio show in Denver. Well, Westward also named Advanced Hair Restoration the top hair restoration company in Colorado. If you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You want the best modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration, from the experience itself to their unmatched results. Receding hairline, bald spot, or thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. I've had some of those very close to me get their hair done with Advanced Hair Restoration, change their lives. They had look more youthful, dating life improved. They had more energy as a result of it. Now, no one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. Starts with your free consultation. Give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you also get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Refine your hairline with a team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
happy song, Bill.
I hate to go deep in it.
We really are the odd couple, aren't we?
Oh, it can't be quenched.
I'm like happy with this song. It's a Thursday afternoon or morning.
So
sunny.
annoying. Everything about it, the tone, the volume. Again, okay, musically, genuinely, it is a good song. Genuinely, that's it. This is all personal opinion. Oh, I hate it. And however, this is a gut check for me. This is my reminder song when I'm programming radio, that there are people like you out here that like this. That when I program the radio station, it's not about my person. And I'm obviously not. But yeah, it's not. It's the message for me is it's not about me. That this radio station, even here, not about me, but also the other music stations that
We're
I do.
dads
it's not about
with 4 kids, man. There's nothing about our lives that are about us.
Yeah, when's the last time you get to choose what's for dinner? I've been going on 7 years. I don't get to choose nothing.
All to that point last night, all of our kids are in youth group now. So my wife and I were like, Mexican food date night? Steven yelled.
Yes, I did. Yay, shut up, Steven. Oh, that's fantastic.
I bring my kids to work
That's wonderful. It's
They hang out.
fantastic. And they're fantastic kids.
Oh, thank you. I know I kind of have the Ben Sass. I read this in Ben Sass's book that you just bring your kids along, bring them to the conversations, let them see you work because it helps them understand this is what adult behavior is. It's not just sitting around on a summer Sunday or summer day scrolling the phone.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the reasons that I'm happy that I can work from home many times at Westwood One, because they see me get out the kit and sit there and say, okay, now dad's got to grind for 5-6 hours in a row.
Right.
Is what we do.
That is what we do. That's how we provide. I want to talk to you about QC Kinetics, and we're going to get to Lucy here in just a second. Are you tired of living with constant joint pain, back pain, elbow pain, or knee pain, robbing you of that joy in your life? Well, you're not alone. It affects millions and impacts their quality of life, but there's hope. My friends at QC Kinetics Denver offer regenerative medical treatments. These are non-surgical, drug-free solutions. As we age, lower back pain becomes common, from muscle strains to herniated discs. Symptoms like muscle aches and shooting pain can worsen with movement. Why risk surgery when there's a safer option with no downtime and a free consultation? QC Kinetics often provides same-day treatment. Visit my friends at QC Kinetics and revolutionize your approach to lower back pain. You can give them a call at 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986, or visit painfreecolorado.com. That's painfreecolorado.com, and tell them Jeff Hunt sent you. Let's go to Lucy Littleton. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Lucy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I have volunteered for the last 20 years at Caring Hands Pregnancy Center.
Nice.
And we were on Mississippi Avenue, but now we're in Aurora. And we have a Bright Course program, and it teaches our clients how to expect, what to expect during pregnancy, labor, delivery, how to bond with your baby, healthy parenting, as well as healthy relationship skills. And we provide free diapers, free clothes, blankets.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you all do that. And Lucy, to this point, I was talking with some major pro-life donors after Colorado just loses over and over and over again. They're kind of going, what do we do next, Jeff? I said, what if you guys invested so much into these pregnancy resource centers that they basically became Ritz-Carlton spas? What if there was the choice between the dingy Planned Parenthood abortion mill down off of the, whatever road that is in Aurora, or the Ritz-Carlton spa for keeping your baby?
Yes, that's what we would love to have that happen. That's for sure. But I didn't get to listen to all your programs, so I wasn't sure if you had brought up about different agencies that are.
What's the name of yours, by the way, so people know again?
Yes, it's Caring Hands Pregnancy Center, and the phone number is 303-349-9183.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
I
Lucy, I got a question for
we
you.
serve. I think we outserve. That's how we win this.
I think that's an absolutely wonderful way to do it. And Lucy, I'd ask you, you said you've been working there for 2 decades plus. What was the original motivation for you to give up some of your personal time to help these new moms? What was the reason?
Well, it's a personal note is that I was adopted through Florence Crimson Home in Pittsburgh, and 50 years later, I was able to find my birth mother. And the first evening we were together, she said that at age 16, she had been raped by a neighbor and a man, and he was in his 50s. He was married, had grown children. There was no reason for him to do that. And her sister, older sister, paid for her to go to the Florence Crittenton home in Pittsburgh. She lived in a different town. And so even when people say, oh, for rape, they should have an abortion, I say, oh, I'm so thankful that my mother didn't have an abortion.
We are thankful too, Lucy. Now, the last question I've got, and then we're gonna have to move on, is what are the major, I would say, hurdles or difficulties that these young mothers are having when they walk through the door at Helping Hands? What are the things that they are finding as the largest challenges for them bringing this baby full term?
It's money. It's caring for the baby. Like I said, clothes, diapers, and just other ways that we can help them. We have resources for jobs that we could refer them to. And a lot of them, of course, are single. And but we've had couples come in also. And eventually they've gotten married and are really happy that they saved their baby, that they didn't choose.
Yeah, I've
abortion.
seen studies on that too, Lucy, that when you go back and you ask them if they regret keeping their child, it is in the high 90s that people are like, no, I know I was going through a crisis, or a yes, it is, or no, they do not regret it. Yes, they went through a hard time, but they're so glad that they kept the baby. As they come to recognize the life and the opportunity that God had given them to raise this child, they're almost unanimously happy they kept the child. Lucy, thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. I want to talk to you about Gay Ribble and Power Home Team. Speaking of orphans, this is one of the things I love about Gay. She gives back to the community. She supports orphans in Colorado to help them find their forever homes. She does this because she was an orphan herself, and she turned out wonderful. She's one of the most delightful people. She's going to be in studio next week. I love our time together when Gay Ribble visits the studio. But here's the big reason, guys. She is a real pro. We all have family members, friends who are real estate agents. This is a business transaction. This is a transaction for you to get the most out of your house. Gay Ribble and her team at Empower Home Team get an average of $30,000 more for their clients. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or she'll pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team. Give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Hey, Billy, you remember that guy that got busted for zooming in while he was driving?
Oh, yeah.
There's another development, a third twist in the story.
Oh, no.
You're never going to believe it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, we talked about the guy who got busted for zooming in when he didn't have a license. Then yesterday, the update was his license was reinstated. This was all a clerical mistake. We should have a little grace for him. Then it turned again. And in fact, he's never had a license in Michigan or any of the other 49 states. The guy was driving around without a license. Oh, as the world spins. You know who he needs? He needs a good lawyer. Dan Kaplis is who he needs. I've known Dan for years. Dan is absolutely with us on values, and he's a titan in the courtroom, which is what you need. Dan is believed to have been the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. He's also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Give him a call, 303-770-5551, or visit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Tomorrow, Dave Williams in studio. Is he going to burn a pride flag? We'll find out more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.